Jack? How was your walk with Barbie?
Well, woke up late and missed the rapture bus. Trying to Google exit hell, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo, all sin, but barred from grace. All the singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. Here lust they whirl on endless breeze. Paolo and Francesca's kiss, a cursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright. Cerberus snarls at every bite. They gorge, they choke, stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus gone, involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame. Far in their fire, they scream his name. Locked in denial, no one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy
So,
flood.
Canto 31, is that what we're on
There's
now?
no more good.
Or are we 29?
Monsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate. Lucifer chew when traitors stay. Bruce Judas locked in ice, too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again. Well, woke up late and missed the rapture bus. Trying to Google exit hell, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo, all sin, but barred from grace. All the singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. Here lust they whirl on endless breeze. Paolo and Francesca's kiss, a cursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright. Cerberus snarls at every bite. They gorge, they choke, stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus gone, involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them
Hey,
out.
Rich actually joined us on time.
Heretics burn in tombs of flame. Far in their fire, they scream his name. Locked
Well,
in
as
denial,
on time
no
as
one's
any of
to
the rest
blame.
of y'all. I was here, right on time.
Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy flood. Murderers scream, there's no more good. Monsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate. Lucifer chew when traitors stay. Bruce Judas locked in ice, too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again. just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust.
Took the kids out. My kids are now obsessed with this Pokemon game at the arcade that you can only play at the arcade. That has like these specific little plastic things that are like cards that they spit out to you when you play the game. So those kids are obsessed with it.
On endless breeze, Paulo and Francesca's kiss, a cursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright, Cerberus snarls. At every bite they gorge, they chokes up day and night.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is that like Pokemon is like Monster Hunter. It's a religion here. It's not a game.
What about K-pop Demon
Oh, K-pop Demon Hunter.
Think of the world by Stuart.
It's actually funny. I've seen snippets of it, but from the snippets I've seen that it's really funny. But
yeah, I actually watched it. My spouse had me watch it. It's very good. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
Is it theaters now? Like it wasn't supposed to be. So it got so popular.
It got so popular. Like,
Sing along.
from what my buddy said, he said the story itself, like the actual like plot, is meh, but the jokes are like on point.
I mean, yeah, I will give the actual plot of it is fairly predictable. Like, it's nothing original. It's more, everything else that's really interesting.
Maybe it's a parody of those kind of stories.
I wouldn't call it a parody exactly, just a very unique reimagining of that kind of story.
Okay. The way it looks to me with the jokes that they have is like, did you ever watch any of the Shaw Brothers films? Like, I know they're Chinese, but like Shaw Brothers films. It's like, okay, so like they're the old like Chinese like kung fu movies and whatnot that everybody was like obsessed with. There's always a comic relief character every single time, and it's like they added 3 of those comic relief characters to a story, and that's what it feels like.
Paulo and Francesca's kiss, a cursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees.
I've only seen the first one.
Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright, Cerberus snarls. At every bite they gorge, they chokes up day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus gone, involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold.
Yeah.
Like
you could take any kung fu action film from the 70s and like 70% of them were made by Shaw Brothers.
In tombs of flame, far in their fire, they scream his name, locked in denial, no one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood, minotaur hunts in muddy flood, murderers scream, there's no more good.
Yeah.
Frostbusters hiding the snakes below, Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
When traitors stay, Bruce Judas locked in ice too late.
Yeah, I might check it out. It's on Netflix.
Stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to
Netflix
free,
special,
but
if I'm not
I'm late
mistaken.
again.
Today's the day Superman hits 600 million. Or it would have hit it yesterday. We're just waiting for the numbers to come out.
us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Kane. Him and Kevin Sorbo.
From grace, all the singing hymns. No heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space.
Well,
Here lust they whirl on endless breeze. Paulo and Francesca's kiss.
I didn't know about it, but and I also knew him more as Captain Dylan Hunt, because, you know, Andromeda.
Kiss up the fright, Cerberus snarls. Every bite they gorge, they choke stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus god involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame, far in their fire. They scream his name, locked in denial. No one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy flood. Murderers scream, there's no more good. Fraudsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate, Lucifer chew. When traitors fade, brewers
like,
chew.
I thought the
Locked in ice too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again. Trying to Google legs in hell, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo's all sin, but barred from grace. All the singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. They whirl on endless breeze. Paulo and Francesca's kiss, a cursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright. Cerberus snarls, every bite they gorge. They choke stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus god involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame, far in their fire. They scream his name, locked in denial. No one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy flood. Murderers scream, there's no more good. Fraudsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate, Lucifer chew. When traitors fade, brewers Judas locked in ice too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again. bus trying to Google exit how, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo's all sin, but barred from grace. Scholars singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. Here lust they whirl on endless breeze. Paulo and Francesca's kiss, accursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright. Cerberus snarls at every bite. They gorge, they choke, stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus gone, involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame. Far in their fire, they scream his name. Locked in denial, no one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy flood. Murderers scream, there's no more good. Frogs, monsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate. Lucifer chew when traitors stay. Brewers Judas locked in ice, too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again. Trying to Google exit how, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo's all sin, but barred from grace. Scholars singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. They whirl on endless breeze. Paulo and Francesca's kiss, accursed tease. All yearn for love and drop to their knees. Lucky one sludge, kiss up the fright. Cerberus snarls at every bite. They gorge, they choke, stuck day and night. Lethal anchors with scales of gold. Plutus gone, involved so cold. Hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the crowd. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame. Far in their fire, they scream his name. Locked in denial, no one's to blame. Violence, rivers boil with blood. Minotaur hunts in muddy flood. Murderers scream, there's no more good. Frogs, monsters hide in the snakes below. Ulysses plotting his final woe. They bite, they twist, voices echo. At the bottom sits frozen hate. Lucifer chew when traitors stay. Brewers Judas locked in ice, too late. So night stops deep through rage and sin. I'd scream to flee, but I'm late again.
Oh, okay, there we go.
All right, and welcome back for Canto 29 now that the fucking technical difficulties are hopefully over. And we will be getting started on the very last canto before we enter the late Cocytus and get to start seeing the final betrayers and Satan himself. But, unfortunately, we did not get Eucharist this week, but we do have Rich here, and we have our friends Ancom and Despy as always.
Woo!
Like real life aside and all the breaks aside, this week should be interesting. It's not as influential as previous cantos that I have kind of gushed about, but this one is probably one of the most well known because it is one of the ones that is most depicted in art. Like, if you see people painting about Dante, it is usually here or in the initial two cantos when he is just getting started that you see paintings of Dante as the character.
If you've ever seen, or read the My Catholic Faith book, the sections where they talk about hell and the depictions and the images that they put in there are derived from this canto.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this canto, along with Milton's interpretation of hell, is pretty much what almost every Christian today has as a vision of hell, as opposed to anything that is from Scripture.
Well, given you could make the argument that hell is non-biblical, that makes sense.
You could argue that hell is non-biblical, but that's only if we get into what's forgery, what was written by who, and all that. I will still call hell biblical because it had cemented its understanding within the teachings before we cemented the canon of books. Just makes sense that if it's been there since before we decided how many books go in the Bible, it's been in the religion since pretty much the beginning. At least that's my interpretation of it.
Fair enough.
But as my co-host just pointed out to you in the audience, hell, as we understand it today, is an extra biblical concept. We do not have what the ancients believed of as hell in our modern lexicon outside of a few Orthodox Judaic faiths. Because the original concept of hell was this place called Sheol. And everybody went there. Good, bad, and different. Everybody went there. It wasn't torture. It wasn't bliss. It was just there.
It was a waiting room. You were waiting for the Messiah.
I mean,
I don't know my Judaic text well enough to know if it was truly a waiting room or if that's just a joke we give it. But at the very
Sheol was just the grave.
Sheol literally just means death. It was considered as, even in pre-Greco-Roman period Judaism, it was considered a region under the earth where the dead went for the rest of eternity. It wasn't meant as a torture or as a reward.
Yeah, it wasn't heaven or hell. It wasn't even purgatory as Catholics understand it. It just was perpetual existence. As far as I remember reading, and my Hebrew is not great, so take this with a grain of salt. There's no talking, there's no communication, there is no communion with other members of the dead. You are all in just this big dark cave under the ground.
Although there are other references in, I think, the New Testament in particular, to Hades.
Yes. And that's in the Old and the New Testament.
And that would be an importation of
Hellenistic beliefs, yes.
Right. In which case there might be assumptions of an afterlife.
Yeah. There. Literally, any time in the New Testament you see the word hell written in an English translation, it literally comes from the Greek Hades.
Yeah.
And
So that
any
would
other
be,
time they
I
will
would think,
call it the afterlife. It is usually when it was referred to as the word Sheol, as we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting juxtaposition about the way that we have this modern interpretation of hell, as reinforced by many churches, but that comes from
well, even if you
fiction
go
writers.
all the way to Revelation, right? I don't know if it's Revelation where this comes from, but the idea that people would be resurrected. They're not being resurrected. They're not being pulled from some other like dwelling place. They're being pulled from like the grave. They're dead and now they're alive.
That is
In
in
which case,
Revelation, but the first time that is predominantly shown in Scripture in a way that most modern Christians would interpret it, the raising of the saints during the resurrection of Jesus. It would be the closest thing that they're going to remember of that. Because they were not drawn from heaven. They were drawn from the grave, as you're describing.
right?
And if these are saints, which they are described as saints, if they are saints, we know by the way the teachings of the Catholic Church, they would had to have been in heaven. So what did we resurrect on that day? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where... Oh, go ahead.
But not. This is different though, because according to what is it, Catholic teaching, the doors to basically the gates to heaven were shut until Jesus died, and then what is it? Without using the other apocryphal text,
Yeah.
the gates of heaven were closed. And basically, those that were considered saints by the Catholic Church that were canonized later would have entered heaven the second the doors were opened. So they're still saints. They just hadn't gone through canonization yet and beatification yet.
Yes, but if we go by the teachings of the original church fathers and the original doctors of the church, their souls were at the side of God. So it's one of those weird contradictions within Catholic teachings over the centuries that most people forget existed because most people stopped talking about it a couple hundred years ago. Like when you guys started breaking off in your own little schisms of Catholicism and Orthodoxy, and the infighting got really heavy after the end of the last crusade.
The last crusade? The Great Schism happened in 1049. That's way before.
But remember, the Great Schism, as you're talking about, is a certain time period of history as described by historians. When I start talking about the schism growing to perpetual mass in later centuries, that's when you guys started spawning a new denomination of Catholicism at least once every decade as opposed to once a century. And I'd say that's a greater schismata from the original than even the initial break, wouldn't you?
Maybe. I'm kidding.
No, I mean, but that's why I consider the Last Crusade to be the great starting point, because that's when we start seeing the rise of the concept of the anti-pope being normalized and people actually pushing back against the Pope as like laymen instead of just clergy, and all of that fun shit. And where we get some of our initial cults, well, offshoot cults, besides the cults that remained incorporated within the Catholic Church. And for those of you in the audience, at this time period, cult did not mean what it means today. Don't get it twisted. It's not the same.
Yeah, cult basically just meant offshoot of an established religion.
Yes, it is what we would essentially today call denomination. Just
I call them
very
legitimate
strict.
cults. What defines a cult typically is that it's small.
Yes.
Once it gets really big, you no longer call it a cult. But
they still call it the Cult of St. Mary.
Although we have
and
the
that's
Cult
pretty
of Mary,
fucking big.
yeah, you're right. But typically, it's only called a cult. It's probably like if it was that big from the beginning, it might not have never have been called a cult.
True. Now
But
Yeah.
Good.
See, my problem is every time I hear the word cult in the context not of like the modern sense, I immediately go to the cult of Dionysus. I realize that's not what we're talking about here.
Well,
but that's
well,
fine.
no,
It
that's
is,
more
it is.
closely
Yeah.
related to what we're talking about than what the modern
Yeah.
interpretation of the word cult means. So
I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, that comparison works for me for sure. It's
Okay,
just
cool.
it's an
Especially-
offshoot of something larger, right? That's
especially when you
has
look at the
gained
cult, especially
Yeah.
when you look at some of the practices and rituals of the cult of Dionysus spread into what latterly became the Benedictine monks. Like you even have a direct parallel into the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
But that's not unique to Catholicism. Everybody stole from the Greeks. Now, that being said, jokes aside,
As they like to say, it was really the Greeks who conquered the Romans, not the other way around.
culturally, yes. Militarily, no. Basically, the way I've always phrased it is Rome may have beat the Greeks with their military, but Greek culture won in the end. Because by the
Yeah.
end, Rome is more Greek than fucking Roman.
Everybody wanted a Greek tutor for their kids.
Greek tutor for their kids, Greek forum speakers to carry their messages to the laity, so on and so forth. Like it was a very different time, and like I wish we could get some of our historian buddies on here one week to go into detail about it, because man, it gets wild as we go through the centuries. That being said, I think we should get back to the reading, I should say. Because of the simple fact that this one, I think we're probably going to stop a little more often than we usually do, because this one had super. We're being a butthead, my camera.
This one in particular is why I like Musa over Longfellow, by the way. We'll see at the very beginning.
And I like Sayers and Chiardi and Musa over fucking Longfellow too. We've been over this. I chose Longfellow because for some reason university professors use this asshole.
Because he's out of copyright. That's
Probably.
He's free to read.
I assume that's why too, but I don't know. But for some reason, this is the most used on the syllabi, so this is what we went with.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And if
But
your
I do wanna
teacher
read
lets you read one of
parts of
the,
it.
oh yeah, but
I do want to read parts of it with Musa to contrast.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
you can see how easier it is to read.
Oh, absolutely. And for any of you who are in the audience watching this for education purposes, I do apologize if you have a university professor who wasn't a dickhead and made you read this version of it. But unfortunately, most university students have to read this version. So this. Is
I
what
read
we went with.
Musa in college. That was what my
It
That's what we read.
it goes Longfellow, Mendelbaum, Musa, Sayers in order on most used on syllabi.
I mean, I had a copy of Sayers because I liked her,
Apparatus,
analysis better. But Musa's translation was the easiest to read, I thought.
I don't know if it's the easiest to read, but it's the easiest to read out of the major ones that everyone reads. I'll give you that, because so many people translate Dante. There may be somebody out there who's done it to where it's super easy to read, and I just haven't come across it yet.
I mean, it's not. I'm not saying Musa's the most accurate. I'm just saying he's,
Mhm.
he's the
No,
most
no, I know what you-
comprehensible. Like, when I make my high schoolers read stuff like this, it's always Musa because they actually understand what they're reading.
Yeah, it's like what's his name? Engelfall's parodies, but they're almost fucking recreations of Shakespeare. They're very modern language.
Yeah.
But
If you're going for clarity, then you're going to read Musa. But I mean, of course, poetic embellishments are beautiful to read. They're just not always clear.
And in Longfellow's time, don't always roll off the tongue.
Right, yeah.
But
Or your tongue just rolls off.
yeah.
Right.
The many people and diverse wounds. It's so weird. Because I want to say diverse because it feels like there should be an E at the end of that. But, the many people and the diverse wounds, these eyes of mine had so inebriated that they were wishful to stand still and weep. But said Virgilius, what dost thou still gaze at? Why is thy sight still riveted down there among the mournful mutilated shades? Thou hast not done so at the other bulge. Consider it to count them thou believest, that 22 miles the valley winds, and now the moon is underneath our feet. Henceforth time allotted us is brief, and more is it to be seen than what thou seest. If thou hadst, I made answer thereupon, attended to the cause for which I look. Perhaps a longer stay thou wouldst have pardoned. Okay, so this is again going back to we see the humanism of Dante the character kind of coming out of him kind of like sympathizing and feeling the plight of the damned souls around him, and Virgilius slapping him of going, come on, we got miles to go before we sleep. What the fuck are you doing, you soft boy?
Just to compare, this is the part that I want to compare, because in Musa, it's just, but Virgil said, what are you staring at? What do your eyes insist on drowning there below those wretched broken shades? You did not act this way in the other bulge. Like, that's so, like, that's very, super easy to understand.
No, and I
And
agree.
you compare that to Longfellow, what you just read.
See, to me, both are clear, but that's because I read a lot of old shit.
Yeah, well, me too. But I mean, I'm talking about, like, I'm teaching this to kids. They're going to miss a lot of that, what happened, I think, in the flowery language.
Oh, you're beautiful.
See, you say flowery, I say archaic, because even when Longfellow was writing this was already archaic language.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, like, what dost thou still gaze at is archaic for sure. But also,
No,
like,
I don't mean that. I mean, like, not even the translations of what Virgil says, because he's intending the Virgil language to sound archaic.
Yes.
But, like, he says the many people and the diverse wounds, right? That is a very, like, even for late 19th century when he's writing this, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah. Yeah. he's
Well,
being
okay,
archaic
I
with
I
it
will
being
disagree with that it doesn't make a lot of sense in his time period, because, again, juxtaposition.
It makes
of
more
overlap.
sense then than it does
Yeah.
now. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and that's why I'll say that he is intentionally trying to use, instead of archaic, I would say obsolete language, because he wants language that is known. Because think about it like this: if Rich and I go off into fucking Greek, or fucking Eucharist and I go off into Hebrew, 1 in 100 may get what the fuck we're talking about. It's the same kind of thing. Whereas he just used obsolete language. This is the equivalent of using tarnation in his time period. You know what I mean? To ours now. It's just out of date
You mean you
enough
don't
to
still
feel
use
old.
that?
Not unless I'm in the plain states and trying to blend in.
I'm kidding around.
No, I know, but that's what this is he's using in his time period, which would be obsolete language, that just outside of common usage but still common knowledge, whereas to us this looks like Greek, because people don't speak like this and haven't spoken like this for centuries. And he does do that intentionally, at least in my opinion, because he does it specifically with every older character that he writes about. So, for example, when he's talking about the ancient Greek heroes, they use the same kind of archaic language that Virgilius does. Different cadences and modalities of speech, obviously, but the same archaicness. Arcadian? I forget the fucking word now. It's too early in the morning to go into nuanced syntactical lexicon. But
All good.
That's my bad.
Archaicity. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know the right word either off the top of my head right now, and I don't feel like looking it up. But this is what we have talked about in previous weeks. This is Virgil snapping the whip. Because to Virgil, even though he is in hell, he will never reach heaven. He may never even be of the type that he may reach purgatory. He believes that all damned souls are where they belong. He is in Dante the author's writing, the better Catholic than Dante. And that is what Dante the author is trying to show us through Dante the character in this moment. At least in my opinion. Come on, get your coffee in, you guys.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, I mean, like, this also goes back to what we talked about with Virgil, like, having particular what is it? He has like what was it? Like, there's supposed to be like 7 virtues, and he only has like 5 of them. I think this is also another just instance of that too, just showing that as well, because he's in hell.
Well, no, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is he is the better Catholic than Dante the character. So now, we don't know Dante the author, how good or bad of a Catholic he truly was. But at least in this story, he is writing Virgilius, the pagan, as the better Catholic than Dante the Catholic. Mm-hmm. And you're just showing it through the heavenly virtues that he is expressing.
Right, but what I'm saying is that no, but what I'm saying is that Virgil doesn't hold all of those virtues. It's Dante that's holding them.
Yes, and Virgil is trying to, through example of the ones that he holds, make the others shine through in Dante. Is where Cameron, I get it. You saw my dog's face for a second. Why the fuck are you all blurry now? Okay,
I mean, Rich, didn't we discuss this before about Virgil not having like all of the different virtues and only having a certain?
He doesn't have the holy virtues, the 3 holy virtues, but he has the 4 cardinal virtues.
Right, correct.
Yes, and Dante the character is supposed to possess them all, but it is Virgil's actions and example that is revealing how to show that as Dante the character.
Or he potentially has them all, but obviously, like, he needs improvement on.
Okay, that I'll give you. Yeah, that I'll give you. I'm just saying that is what Dante the author is trying to have Virgil the character do to Dante the character.
So the 4 cardinal virtues are prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance.
Yeah.
And this would be an example of fortitude in the face of adversity.
But he doesn't have faith, hope, and love.
See, I would argue he at least has faith. He just doesn't have hope and love. Virgil, that is. Because he seems to, as I'm pointing out, have an expression of that faith in all of his actions. He just can't get out of hell.
Well, I don't know that it's faith, right? I mean, The
Yeah,
evidence
I would argue. I would
is
argue
what.
that once you're in hell, faith is no longer possible because you have already seen what it is that you were supposed to have faith in life about. So the whole point is you had faith in life because once you're dead, once you're in the afterlife, and you see all of the evidence around you, faith is no longer required.
That comes from the way we modernly interpret pistis, not the way they did.
Perhaps so, but I,
And
you know,
because faith was something that persisted even with knowledge in the way that they understood the concept of pistis. And that juxtaposition didn't change until what, 1740s, 1730s, Despy Rich? It was very late in Catholic teachings.
Paul does say that faith is the evidence of things unseen. So, like, once it's seen, like, you
yes.
no longer need faith.
Yes, but we're talking about Catholic teachings, not logical interpretation of the plain reading.
I mean, that's I learned that from the church.
Like that's
I
what
mean,
modern teachings.
I mean,
are going back to historical.
This is even how Augustine would have, like how Augustine, what's the word I'm looking for?
No, because even those who had knowledge of God had faith. They describe even the Damascus Road experience, where this is supposedly a manifestation from Jesus and God himself to Paul. He is still expressing a member of faith, but he now has knowledge as well. They do not separate it until later in the teachings, many centuries later, from the original scripture. We separated that in language later, not originally. That's what I was getting at. Because
fair enough.
The Catholic teachings changed over the years, and I'd have to look up the exact year, but it was mid 1700s that this changed, where faith and knowledge became highly relevant and segregated from one another, even to the laity of Catholicism. This had been being taught in Protestantism for, what, 200 years, 300 years at this point?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know, because the thing is this is one of those things that drives most modern people nuts when they go into this. It is really hard to unlearn the stuff we learn from the church now and try to go by what the church taught then, because we are taught as children or as believers, the church never changes. They teach you the same thing in the Society of Pope Pius. The church is unchanging. That's why they separated, is because that church did change.
Well, no, the reason why they left was because of the Vatican II. It was the only reason that was the main sticking point. So.
Well, I misunderstood based on something that fucking one of the bishops in your cult said. So I thought it was modern teaching rather than just his saying. That was why I misunderstood it.
No, because like the society still accepted like scientific truths that were found during like the Enlightenment period. It's not like they were trying to prove young Earth creationism.
Oh, that was what I meant. What I was saying though is they make the claim, because all of us here know it's bullshit, no matter which church says it. But we all know that these churches make the claim that the church is unwavering, unchanging, and has always been what it will always be type shit. It's never true, but they always make the claim.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the reasons why, because of I forget the bishop's name, the guy in Washington, the guy that got real famous and on the news a bunch back in the 90s. I thought maybe you'd remember his name. But he was the one who said that the church is unchanging, and that was why the Society of Pope Pius had separated from the church.
You talking about Lefebvre?
Yeah, that jackass. The guy who was in Seattle a bunch. God, I just remember him
Yeah.
sitting in front of the Space Needle doing like news conferences and shit.
Yeah, like if I remember correctly, like the whole main thing, like and this is like what everybody says. They don't even talk about that. They basically say that Vatican II is the reason why they left.
Okay, and like I said, that's my misinterpretation of watching news shit about something I barely understood. So easy enough for me to make that mistake. But that being said, this is something that the church claims even to this day. Raffensperger made this claim in the fucking 90s. Rich, you'll even remember it because it was in his public discussion on the truth cannot contradict truth. This isn't the church changing. The church has always been this way. This is the church holding to its core values, is that they can't contradict truth.
When it comes to faith and morals, yeah. Things that aren't supposed to change.
Yeah.
The context in which faith and morals exist changes all the time.
And that's the gray area that they play in to where they can say they're not lying.
Right.
Whereas all of us know both sides of that equation change all the damn time.
Yeah, I've got a book. I can't find it. I haven't been able to find it since I moved, but I have to go look for it. But it's just a list of all of the pronouncements of the church, like throughout the years that have changed. And it was actually, this book was written by a bunch of nuns.
Oh, cool.
The nuns were themselves trying to shatter the myth that church teaching never changes.
Well, because the thing is
they believe that myth was harmful to the church.
And I do too, personally.
Yeah.
Because it was that teaching of the church that led to the corruption of powers that we all hate about the church to this day. It is what led to the signing.
It's so useful in debates. What was it called? It was called "The Church Has Spoken." Is what it's called.
Oh, I don't think
I need
I've
to get
read
it again. I know I've got it in storage somewhere, but
I don't think I've read that one.
It's called Rome Has Spoken.
I read one that was done by a theologian out of Germany in the 1920s, where basically the same thing, just went through like all the ancient teachings of the Catholic Church and how they changed and what doctor of the church instituted that change and blah blah blah, like all of that crap. And it was just really fascinating. Yep. It was almost like for Ancom and I, it was like looking at a taxonomy tree. Like seriously, Ancom, it's wild. It almost follows the same evolutionary patterns as life.
I mean, I've seen taxonomy trees for religion in general, and they do very much follow those same patterns.
I mean, there's a few things where we get polytropies and stuff like that would not happen in nature that do happen in religion, but it is really fucking similar.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, it's like, it's exactly the same as if you look at a taxonomic tree for language. Same exact thing. It just happens on a much more rapid pace because, these are evolutions of ideas rather than evolutions of genes.
Well, and linguistics never follows the full line of the law of speciation because every language can take a loan word from any other language, so they can always interbreed.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but you're right. That's follows the same trees.
I would call loan words the linguistic equivalent of horizontal gene transfer. But
until you look at English and you realize that our entire language is built up of fucking loan words.
Okay, we're a fucking hybrid language.
But that's true.
English is the exception that proves the rule. Come on.
No, there's so many languages like ours.
All right, now let's just say, I just got to point this out here. How many times was England invaded?
Well, the thing is that's not even the problem. The problem is most of our language is based on Anglo-Saxon. Yeah, actually I am. Because most of our language is based on Anglo-Saxon Frankish, and therefore what we have done is, we went and stole the fucking words because we were the ones invading everywhere.
Well, no, but the reason. Okay, so Old English is based on Anglo-Saxon Germanic.
Mhm.
Then you have 1066, the Norman French invade, and the royals are speaking Old French for a good 300 years,
Mhm.
incorporating all of that vocabulary into English, thus becoming Middle English. Then we start invading other places and bringing words back, hence you get to early modern English and later English as we know it. I would say the majority of English is imported, or there is not imported, is brought in
Acquired.
by outside forces coming to England, and a relatively smaller portion of it is shit we stole.
Well, no,
It's
see, I disagree
acquired.
because you see, I'm moving superiority with where the superiority of the culture was. England, that shift happened around the 1100s, as we're talking about. But before then, it was still in mainland Europe where that amalgamation was forming when the Anglo-Saxons were invading most of their neighbors, because we brought a lot of Frankish, what laterally or Gaulish Frankish, which laterally became French, with the Anglo-Saxons in the initial invasion in the 800s. This is
Well,
like,
yeah, but that's why I
yeah,
was saying Anglo-Saxon Germanic, because yes, they had a bit of Frankish, but they were Germanic tribes primarily. By the 800s, yes, a lot of Frankish and a lot of Roman and Latin influences had come
Romanji,
in.
freaking, they stole from everyone. They were like the Romans. It was great as far
I
as
mean, yeah,
language is
they were
concerned.
Well, yeah, the Angles and the Saxons were semi-nomadic tribes from the north of what we now call Germany and south of Denmark. But like, yeah, they still had influences from all over the place because the Roman Empire was fucking huge, and its influence was even larger.
Yep. And then we get we're gonna go too far off on a tangent, but then we get the secondary
That's what we do
influences of,
here.
yeah, but then we get the secondary influences of Elder Futhark being rediscovered and brought back into the language hundreds of years later. Well, we'll get into this and we'll be here all day. We've only got a few cantos in, or a few stanzas in, rather. So what I will get back to before we got off on the tangent is this is Dante the author using Virgil as, at least in this particular situation, the small animals stop me buttons. Um, the juxtaposition of him being the better Catholic in this situation, because Dante is either showing sympathy or compassion or empathy with these damn souls that he keeps gazing on. And if Rich, you want to pick up on line 13 and go to 36.
Okay, this is the part where I really appreciated the way Musa put it, because it just sounds so bitchy. He says, so I'm just going to say it in the Musa part, and then I'll do the Longfellow part, because in the Musa part he says, um, if you had taken the time to find out what I was looking for, I started yelling at him, perhaps you would have let me stay there longer. And you wouldn't get that sense at all from Longfellow saying, if thou hadst, I made answer thereupon, attended to the cause for which I looked, perhaps longer stay thou wouldst have pardoned. Like, okay, yeah, it means the same thing, but like you just don't get that same sort of bitchy tone. It's not as clear. I don't know. Meanwhile, my guide departed, and behind him I went, already making my reply, and superadding in that cavern, where I held mine eyes with such attention fixed, I think a spirit of my blood laments the sin, which down below there cost so much. Then said the master, be no longer broken, thy thought from this time forward upon him attend elsewhere, and there let him remain. For him I saw below the little bridge, pointing at thee, and threatening with his finger fiercely, and heard him call Gary del Bello. So wholly at that time wast thou impended by him who formerly heard altaforte, thou didst not look that way, so he departed. Is that where I'm supposed to be?
Well, I was going to have you go to 36, but that's fine too, because I forgot that we should have done a stop for Jerry DeBello. Okay. So. Notes. Where is it? Okay, so DeBello was a disreputed member of the Alighieri family and was murdered. I forget who murdered him, but he was avenged by his brother, who basically went and killed like another member of the family who killed the first Alighieri family member. And the reason that I remember this, and I put a note down about this, they nailed his head to the fucking door of the house. Interesting.
That was kind of them.
Yeah, it was just an interesting little note that I had to. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, I have a note for this one. But yeah, the Jerry DeBello was an Alighieri, secondary family member, a cousin, and was murdered by a family I can't remember the name of right now. But their brother went and killed a different family member, not even the murderer, different family member of the murderer, and nailed that family member's head to the front door of the family estate. Different times of 1300s. 1200s at this point, but still.
This is how you told people you meant business back then.
Yeah. I don't remember about Altaforte, and I don't have any notes on that. Anybody else got that one?
I don't.
I mean, based on the way it is in context, it's a location, probably a castle of some kind. I forgot to put notes down about it when I was going through stuff this week.
Sensei, have you seen Yellowstone?
I haven't, but I've seen so many snippets. I really want to see it. The only problem is that because it's Paramount Plus, I either have to pay the full amount online to see it, or I have to wait for it to come to a different platform.
Right.
Which sucks.
Would you like access to my Plex server where I have it?
I would love to watch it. I really would.
On the flip side of that, you also could
talk
just
to me after stream.
Yeah, that too. But the other thing you could have done before Ancom gives you this much easier answer is you could have just VPN'd into the US and been fine.
No, I can't. Like, Japan has a specific thing with VPNs. I've tried before. Trust me, I have multiple times, and it has a way to basically just tell by your ping. And I don't know if like Japanese servers snitch or what it is, but it lasts for about 15 minutes, and then I lose access.
Interesting.
You lose access to the VPN itself, like it disconnects, or you lose access to the thing you're
whatever
streaming service,
whatever streaming service. Yep, whatever streaming service I use through the VPN.
That's probably not Japanese servers. It's probably ISP. I don't know if you have national ISP or privates, but that's probably ISP specific. Like, honestly.
Okay. Well, all I know is that every time
there are likely ways around that, but it depends on the VPN service you're using and what options you set.
And you have a better option for them, anyways.
I do, so I will. I will endeavor to obtain that option. Do you want? Would you also like to watch any of the previous series? I believe Yellowstone is based on like 18 something and 19.
No, Yellowstone.
There are two other series. I thought.
Yeah, but Yellowstone is the first one.
Yep.
The other ones are like.
What did you say?
There's prequels. The Yellowstone is the first one.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There are prequels, so they take place earlier in time, But you're
Yeah.
supposed to watch Yellowstone first.
Gotcha. Okay.
Although I don't think it really matters the order because they don't have all that much to do with each other. Like each show is like
Self-contained.
it's the same family. It's a saga of the same family, right? But you don't ever hear references to each other in the other shows, from what I understand. But the reason I asked is because there's this sort of famous thing that happens in that show, which is like going to the train station. Are you familiar with that one from all the snippets you've seen, Sensi?
Going to the train station? No,
Yeah.
sorry.
If there's someone in the family who's causing trouble, like existential trouble for the family, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to take him to the train station," which basically means,
Oh, okay.
you know what that's.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, and so that's how they get rid of him.
Yeah.
You know, the implication is that they went out of town, but of course they went out of the world.
Right.
And so that just kind of reminded me of the nailing the head thing.
Yeah.
Is that was that version of going to the train station.
Yep.
They left at least twice. I mean, that happened at least twice in the show, I think.
I'll be honest, I tried watching Yellowstone. I couldn't get into it. It was okay. It was one of those shows that either grabs you or it doesn't. And it was like, I could tell it was well made, well written, well acted. It just didn't hold my attention.
Yeah. Sometimes that does happen.
Yeah.
It's made to appeal to conservatives, from what I understand. So I think that had a lot to do.
I didn't really get that feeling from the bits that I watched. Really, it was more just like the pacing was off for me.
Right.
Like it felt, how to put it? It felt like a show for somebody who has nothing but time and no worries in the world.
It reminded me of Dallas.
Another show that fits that fucking
Yeah.
that description. That real kind of like lackluster pacing with weird injections of energy. It's like I said, I could tell all of it was like well written, well acted, etc. It's like the same way that like especially people on the left, like me and Ancom, they can't get into cop shows. They don't like propaganda. The right propaganda show, if it's made right, I fucking love them because it shows both sides of the world. It shows like a realistic interpretation. Yellowstone, well, from everything I've read, shows a realistic interpretation. That's not a real world I want to be in. I don't want to be 50 miles from the nearest town. Like, yeah, fuck that bullshit.
That's why they could take people to the train station, you know?
Yeah.
You couldn't do that in the city.
Well, you can. It's just the subway, turn them into a mole person, same difference.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He just fucking jumped on the tracks one day when we were at the subway station. I just haven't seen him since. Same thing. It's just the New York version of taking it to the train.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this
also
is
referred to as the long black train for some reason.
That sounds familiar from my American history, and I don't know why.
Well, that reminds me of what is just like blues in itself about like the mysticism around it.
Yeah.
Because like one thing about blues is that there's always a deal with the devil and there's always a train. Well, almost always a deal with the devil and almost always a train, I should say.
First, yeah, I wonder if that same, because it's a cliff. It's a particular geographical area where there's a big cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if in the because I've never actually watched the show, I've just seen enough to know what the train is. But I wonder if in the previous generational episodes, that take place in earlier years, if they used it for the same purpose. Like if this is a family tradition of murdering people there. It goes back to the 18. Like I think the earliest prequel, the 18 something, I think that has Harrison Ford in it as the main family member.
Is it Harrison Ford or is it Sam Elliott?
I don't know. I think it was Harrison Ford. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. Yellowstone, Harrison Ford. Yeah, 1923. Harrison
Okay.
Ford's the main character in 1923.
Yeah, more power to them. I'm glad their shows are doing good. That they're out there doing the crap that people are enjoying. But not
Well,
my
it's the
jam.
reason why, like, Star Trek hasn't been such a big emphasis recently for Paramount because Yellowstone became such a big hit. Now they're less reliant on Star Trek.
That may be the case, but you and I both know that they can't rely on this long term, whereas Star Trek they absolutely can.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
Actually,
this,
apparently Skydance is now newly interested in Star Trek. So the new ownership is, I think, more interested in Trek than the previous one was.
yeah, I'm not altogether excited about them getting their hands on it, but that's just me.
Yeah, an outfit like Skydance and who their ownership is being interested in Star Trek, I don't consider that a good thing. I would
I don't know.
rather see.
I do because
I would.
previously it was Sherry Redstone, and she was like way worse. I think.
Well, look
Okay,
in the
maybe
sky.
I don't know
Look
the
in the
name.
Skydance. Redstone's a piece of work, but Rich, the issue is we essentially may get the mirror universe of Strange New Worlds going forward, without them making it the mirror universe. If Skydance is wanting to do this as their style of political commentary, if and this is the only potential positive, if they just want a cash grab, they'll leave it the fuck alone
Right.
and let the showrunners
Fair.
do what they're doing. And if they're just looking for a profit center for their recent acquisition, that would be the wise move. Will they make the wise move or the political move? Who knows?
And all of this has nothing to do with Dante.
Yes,
Not
but now going back to the train, since we have a conductor.
The holodeck episode where they go to the Inferno, though, is really great.
That is actually a good one. But since we have a conductor in this one, I'll give this one over to our Western friend.
Okay. Let's see here.
Just what's on the screen.
And where do you want me to go to?
Just down to the bottom to end of.
It's funny that you're referring to the guy who lives in Japan as the Western one.
Well, he's the only one of us who has a vest on screen and could probably reach without leaving camera to grab his hat.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
And despite being in
Okay,
Japan, also is probably within fucking a few feet of his fucking cowboy boots.
No, those are by the front door, and I'm in
But
the.
I didn't know where.
The,
Yeah, I didn't know where.
Opposite corner.
I didn't know where your office was in the house. I was taking a shot.
Was that a Japan thing where you don't wear your shoes inside?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a big no. Big no.
I'm curious. I realize this is getting way off topic. What is the source of that?
Oh, you just the source of that is that you have to sit and like meals used to be served on the floor. So if you're wearing your dirty shoes inside the house, you're basically it's like somebody walking with muddy boots all over the seat that you're going to sit on before you eat at the table. Think of it like that.
Okay.
Gotcha. It's also dirt breaks down to Tommy mats quicker. And if you keep your floor clean, a tatami mat can last fucking decades, if not centuries. Whereas if you get dirt in them, they can last a couple of months.
Is it true that
they last
are measured
longer.
Is it true that rooms are often measured in the size of a room is measured in the number of mats you have?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Joe. Joe is the measurement.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And when I say a couple of months, I mean before you get that gray, discolored shit from the rattan breaking down and the tatamis. That being said, yeah, just down to where it says end of Marima and Sardinia. Just because
Okay.
there's stuff we're gonna want to talk about in this.
All right. O my conductor, his own violent death, which is not yet avenged for him, I said, by any who is sharer in the shame, made him disdainful whence he went away, as I imagine without speaking to him, and thereby made me pity him the more. Thus did we speak as far as the first place upon the crag which the next valley shows, down to the bottom, if there were more light. When we were now right over the last cloister of Malboge, so that its lay brothers could manifest themselves onto our sight. Divers lamenting pierced me through and through, which with compassion had their arrows barbed, whereat mine ears I covered with my hands. What pain would be if from the hospitals of Vladicina, Vladiciana, twixt July and September, and of Marema and Sardinia.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to say Vlad too, but it's VAL, not VLA. I did the same thing the first time my eyes went over. I'm like, what? Oh, no, Valda. Okay, so.
I do apologize. I took one of your laments.
No, I actually gave it to you because I wanted to give you the conductor portion. Because you did misspeak once that was slightly important. It was in one of the first tercets. You said, "As I imagine, without speaking to him, it's to me."
Oh, okay.
And this is a where's my fucking notes? This is a homage to Ajax in the Odyssey 11. Where he says, he answered me not at all, but went to Erebus amongst the other souls of the dead. It is this kind of visual homage that he is creating in this moment of the soul not speaking at all to you, but the answer is there all the same.
Okay.
And Rich, since you're our fucking Homer expert, what do you remember of Odyssey 11? Because I haven't read Odyssey in far too many years.
Because that's in a footnote?
Well, that's one of the notes that I put down about this portion being about a homage to Ajax. Because if you look in the original Sayers, you look at Longfellow, you look at Ciardi, all of them bring this reference in, and all of ancient scholars on Dante from like the 15 and 1600s also fucking bring this example up as well. And I just don't remember Odyssey 11 well
Ajax
enough.
refuses to speak in 11.
Mm-hmm.
This is when Odysseus goes to Hades to go speak with the dead, and Ajax refuses to speak. He's still bitter over, I don't know if you guys know about the end of the Odyssey. The end of the Iliad, where there's a wrestling match between Ajax and Odysseus. And Odysseus wins because he's an amazing wrestler. That's like one of the things everyone should know about him. And Ajax went insane with grief, and
because Ajax was all defeated up to that point.
Yeah, as a result, tried to kill everyone in the room, or everyone in the, I don't know if they were outside, but everyone around. And I forget who it was. I think maybe it was Athena who descends upon him and makes him mistake a bunch of sheep for them.
Yeah,
so that he
I remember this.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. He kills the sheep instead of the people. But the shame of that incident, like, basically ruins Ajax forever. He's
Well,
never the
yeah,
same.
because he thought he was, because in his mind's eye he was killing his friends, his compatriots, and
Right.
he now has to live with those visions of what he did, even though it was just sheep, because to him that's not what he saw.
Right. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Logan. I wonder if that's where they got the idea from.
Unfortunately,
But
we will never know
in,
since the creator is now
in
dead.
Logan,
But
you find that actually I think it comes from the comics, but I wonder if that's where the comics got it from. But in yeah, he kills. It's the other way around in Logan, though. It's that he thought he was killing enemies, and actually he was killing all the other X-Men because of a trick of some villain who could do illusions.
that could be, with a quick little search. The resurgence of Hercules in Marvel Comics comes around the same time as that comes in the Logan story arc.
Right.
So they could have been like crossover, like research that led to it, or just just normal like influence from education.
Yeah. Because it is a cool story. But,
well, and I just hadn't read Odyssey in too long, and I didn't want to mess up the details, fucking fumbling my way through the Ajax story. Because I knew that this was Ajax from all of the commentaries, and I was like, this is something that we should talk about because we have you here.
Well, and also, like, I mean, it's important to know that there's nobody Ajax could have wrestled that could have beat him otherwise, I think, who was alive at that point. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, who was alive at that point.
Yeah, I was about to say you're thinking of Achilles. Well, maybe Achilles or Hector, but not. Yeah, they're both dead at that point.
Are they dead at that point? Does it flash forward?
I'm pretty sure Achilles that they're dead alive by the time. I thought they were dead by the time of the wrestling match.
I mean, unless they had some time jump that I forgot about. No, he's still alive. He won't be.
Is the wrestling match happening during the war?
I thought it was happened. It happened. Yeah, I can't remember. There might be a time jump, and now the war's over, but I can't remember if that's the case.
I thought so, and it's been too many years for me to be confident, so I don't want to say for certain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still alive because he doesn't die. He dies in another poem that has been lost to us. And at the beginning of the Odyssey, we're told a little bit about Achilles' death.
Well, we assume that it's been lost to us. It also could have been, and I was reading about this in other ancient texts, not specifically the Odyssey. Apparently in ancient fiction, ancient epics like this, it was very common to just skip time periods and not explain what happened in the middle. Because it allowed for essentially a greater passage of time. And this is before we essentially had the modern intervention. Okay, yeah, I thought
Achilles is dead, that's why they're wrestling. They're wrestling to see who gets the armor. Achilles' armor.
Okay, yeah, I could have swore that it was after he was dead. I forgot why they were wrestling. I thought it was just sport.
And we don't get the account of Achilles dying in the Iliad because that's a separate poem. But apparently there's a time jump. I just forgot about it. There's a time jump, and so now Achilles is dead.
Okay. But the other part about this is this is, in history speaking, one of the most well-known, historically preserved examples of the Italian concept of a vendetta that is being shown here. Because what Dante is talking about in this area is among the Italians of this age, says Napier, from Florentine Histories 1, Chapter 7. And for the centuries after, private offense was never forgotten until revenge, and generally involved a succession of mutual injuries. Vengeance was not only considered lawful and just, but positive duty and dishonorable to omit. So, like, this wasn't, like, when we think of vengeance today, we think of it as, like, unjust revenge. In this time period, it was literally the law of the land. And this is one of the most well-known historical preservations of that concept from this time period, because, at least from the historical concept, this vendetta concept had only recently been fostering in Italy in historical time frames over the last couple of centuries. So, like, this is, like, one of the times where it is preserved in a book that is written and read widely, even though it is not specifically about this event. It's one of the first times we see that word heavily used in a well-known text of vendetta.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, it's not the first time, obviously, because the concept's older than this, but of what we still read today, it's one of the most well-known. That being said, the other thing about this is, where's my other note? The Malboge in this area, the last cloister of this Malboge, is one of the most depicted in art. This is the side of the castle in hell that we see in Renaissance and Enlightenment paintings. The black-walled castle that we see, this is the cloistered edge of the Malboge that they're describing in this particular tercet. Is that's what we're seeing. Is so if you've ever seen that artwork, that's where we are in hell right now.
Yep.
Sorry, just back on what you were saying about
mind. Achilles is not dead. Sorry, Achilles is not dead at that point. Sorry, I just
what you were saying about the word vendetta. I'm not. Maybe I missed it. I'm not seeing it in the poem.
It's not in this particular part of the poem. This work is the concept of vendetta. The people who started writing commentary about Dante's work started less than 2 decades after his death, and they are talking about it in there, and this is where it is preserved from. Yeah. And this is where we get, like, the very concept of it being generational, that it cannot end until it ends, so to speak. It has to go on because it was dishonorable not to.
I see.
the Hatfield boys.
Or the what is it? The Montagues and the Capulets.
Oh yeah.
No, that one I was going to say, but the Hatfields and the McCoys, if I'm remembering correctly, wasn't that all over a mistake? Like, it wasn't even true vendetta. It was basically an imagined slight leading to ever escalating tension. I mean, it's been a long time since I read about those two families.
I mean, that well may be, but I mean, after a while, it no longer becomes about the original thing, right?
Yeah, well, no, you're right about that.
Things happened after that, yeah.
I would just say, like, for me, a proper vendetta would actually come from actual wrongdoing, and that would just be like Family Feud, if I'm remembering correctly, anyways. Because if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was like over, like, marrying out the marriage between families, something like that. Like, some cousin married one of their cousins or some crap like that. I forget now. It's fucking long ass history to read about, and a long time since I read about it. And for any of you in the audience who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about because the Hatfield and McCoys are no longer relevant Americana culture, this is a story of two families in the Appalachians, if I'm remembering correctly, that basically fucking fought for like 8 generations, like killing each other.
That sounds like
I
a lot
mean,
of generation.
the only reference at my age, and mind you, I'm almost 40, that I know of the Hatfield and McCoys is shit I saw on Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it's very dated.
I mean, that like you'll see it in games and whatnot. Like Red Dead Redemption does a really good job of trying to like portray it with different names, but it's basically the same, the same kind of.
They do it in Skyrim with the Nord storyline. They do it with. It's a trope that we use common in Americana, but most people no longer know the origin story.
Right.
Think of it like the Dogman of Michigan. This is a story of werewolves. Most people don't know the origin story is literally two assholes on the radio for Halloween decided to write like a creepy folk song, and then people started calling in saying they saw the thing that these people made up on the song. Just an interesting bit of folklore that nobody really remembers the history of, but now everybody remembers the werewolves in fucking Wisconsin, the Beast of Bray Road, and the Dogman of Michigan.
Yep.
I could have sworn that there's a tradition among the Hatfield McCoys now to like meet and have like dinner or something, barbecue or something.
If
Like,
so,
they
that's
would
cool,
make it
but I've
together.
never heard that. If that is, that's a cool bit of history, but I don't know
A
that.
joint family reunion, it's called.
Oh, okay. Okay, so now going back to the poem, Valdiciana is a swamp. It is an area. It's not actually a swamp, but the area is mainly swamp. It's an area. Where was it? Notes. In the Tuscan valleys. It's essentially at this time period when Dante is writing about a source of pestilence because it's been flooded for a long time. So think of what does a lot of stagnant water over a large area create?
A swamp?
Ugh.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And a metric
Gnats.
fuck ton of them.
Gadflies.
Yes, and a metric fuck ton of them in a time period before antibiotics and antiparasitics.
Ugh, yuck.
Yeah.
Yuck. Yuck.
And that's why the where they're talking about is Valticiana, betwixt July and September, and of Marima and Sardinia. Marima and Sardinia are two other locations. Sardinia, an island. Marima, I think, is another island, but I don't remember. But both are notorious for, during the rainy season, having stagnant water and pestilence from insect-borne illnesses. And in Dante's time period, this is common knowledge. So this is essentially going, them fucking lepers over there to us today. To put that into a modern analogy that people can somewhat understand. Or those COVID rat lickers over there. Take your pick.
So can I ask about I'm curious about the ancestor. Is this would you say Gary is his name if you were going to translate it into English, or
I think it'd be
would you say
Jer, but
Gary?
I think it'd be the J instead of the G sound, but yeah.
So Jerry?
I think so. Like the long J, Jer, like you do. But
Okay.
I think I don't know. Ancom, you got any insight?
Sorry, where are we talking about? Is
Geri,
9.7,
yeah, Jerry
the
DeBello.
ancestor that's so this is an ancestor that
sorry, what line? What line?
27.
Oh, 27. Okay.
Yeah, Jerry DeBello, the Alighieri ancestor.
I don't know if it's Jerry or Gary. I don't mean in terms
No,
of
it's
how it's in Italian.
it's neither.
I mean,
It's neither. It's Jerry. Well, oh, sorry, that's French.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Jerry.
Whoa.
Sorry, I got my accents mixed. Jerry. But anyways,
Yeah.
either way, it's more of a ZH sound.
I just mean to say, if you were to, is this the name that in English is called Jerry from Gerald, or is it Gary?
I have no clue. This is an entomology.
Well,
that is beyond my knowledge.
It's worth noting that both Gary and Jerry do come from Gerald. Gary
Oh, okay.
is a Gary is an evolution of Gerald.
Yeah,
Okay, so
and
I
I
think
don't know
probably
the
Gary.
and I don't know the etymology if this is where it comes from or if it's old Germanic and they just sound alike. I have no clue.
Superman robot number 4
Yep.
chooses that as his name. Gary.
Now,
Da-da-da-da.
that being
It's
said,
actually
Go ahead.
borrowed from the Greek.
okay,
Yeah.
so originally it would be the hard J, so Jari.
No, neither. It would be more of a Y sound because it was
Oh,
gamma
ancient Greek.
epsilon
Yeah, ancient
gamma
Greek.
epsilon rho iota, so it would be Yeri.
Okay, yeah, okay. I should have went further back.
However, in the Italian, it is Yeri.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's the ancestor. What was the question, Rich?
Well, it's just I mean, this is what dominates the first half of this canto is Dante's like source of like the fact that he didn't avenge that ancestor's death is why that's why Jerry is like pointing at him and like angry at him and like putting rude gestures in his direction
Well, see,
because he never avenged his death. And I
See-
wonder if in real life he feels some shame at the fact that this death is not avenged.
perhaps because of the way he words it here, maybe at the time of writing, the
Right.
death had not been avenged, but as we know historically, the death was avenged. Uh, maybe at the time that he was writing
Maybe
the
at the
epic, it
setting
had not
it
been
wasn't
yet.
avenged. Maybe at the setting it wasn't avenged, but then before the writing it was avenged, and this is some explanation as to why it was avenged.
Yeah, I'd have to go look up the date that the vengeance actually took place. Because
Yeah.
I didn't put that down in my notes, but because of the way he transposes time from when Dante the character is to Dante the narrator is, sometimes it is hard to
Right.
tell. Maybe, but it
Well, it's
is
just easier
worded.
for the work to be prophetic, right? Because he's
Mhm.
predicting things that at this time hadn't happened, but because he's writing decades after the setting, uh, he's able to, he knows the future, so he's able to, make things look like he was being prophetic.
Like all prophecies that we know of today, they usually are writing about time periods in the past that they know about, but acting like it's the
Right.
future. So yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it would
by the way-
make sense.
I was wrong. I was misreading the IPA. It is Jerry.
Yeah. Okay. So the long J.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought it would be, because I'm like, this would have been from northern Italy, not southern Italy, so on and so forth. Like, there's a lot of, for those of you who are lost, that are not linguistically minded like Ian Despy and I, this is weird idiosyncratic things from languages that have been dead for almost 2,000 years that are affecting modern languages in 1300s that we are now having to interpret in 2025. So this is a lot of idiosyncratic and esoteric knowledge that you don't need, that we're just nerds about. Unless you're in a language class, and then by all means take it. Yes, show this to your professor and watch them laugh at us and tell us how wrong we are because we're laymen compared to them. Oh, that being said,
All right, what have we read so far? What's the latest line that we've read?
we just finished 48, and I was about to have you pick up in a second when I
Okay.
when I
Did
finish
we
up.
talk about why everybody's sick from July to
Yes.
September?
Yes,
Okay.
the insect-borne illnesses from the swamp of Valdiciana.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
And that's what I was just about to get onto. This changed since Dante's time period. Funnily enough, because of climate change, before anthropogenic climate change, just natural climate change in the region made these islands far more arid than they are today, and therefore they are no longer swamps that bear out illnesses to the surrounding areas. And then 49 is where we're going to pick up Rich, and it looks like... Oh, I hate that. 66 is where you'll go to, because I don't know, I don't remember in the Italian what the fucking punctuation is here, why he separates it into parentheses here, but for some reason the parentheses end on the end of one tercet, or begin on the end of one tercet and end at the beginning of another tercet.
Well, it's appropriate that we go to 66.
There are no parentheses in the Italian.
Yeah, but there's some kind of delineation, isn't there? I thought there was a mark next to it. Like,
there are commas, like, at the beginning is a comma, at the end is a semicolon.
Also, Musa
weird.
puts parentheses in different places.
Yeah, and I don't understand what Dante's punctuation in the Italian means, because starting with that doesn't make sense to me with the way that this is written out in English. But my Italian sucks, so that's probably my own fault. So, anyways, go on. From all diseases, go to 66. And why is it fitting we go to 66? Just because it's 6-6.
Okay.
Rich,
Rich,
you said it was fitting we would go to 66. Why? Did I miss something, or is it just the...
Yes, because it's the 66.
Okay. It's hell.
Number, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was the obvious and not something, more esoteric that you're pointing towards.
I mean, the most appropriate would be Canto 6, line 66, but close.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Although there is a Canto 66, so that'll have a line 6.
Yeah.
It's ironically not in Inferno. Canto 66 would be...
Yeah, but could you imagine if every fucking one of the three had 100 cantos, or 100 cantos each? Because that's the only way that you break it apart if you had 66 in hell.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Or
you could just count it by the lines.
Yeah, maybe. But anyways, back to the reading instead of our nerd shit.
All right, all the diseases in one moat were gathered, such was it here, and such a stench came from it as the putrescent limbs is wont to issue. We had descended on the furthest bank from the long crag upon the left hand still, and then more vivid was my power of sight. Down toward the bottom, where the mistress of the high Lord Justice Infallible punishes foragers, which she here records, I do not think a sadder sight to see was in Aegina, the whole people sick. When was the air so full of pestilence? The animals down to the little worm, all fell, and afterwards the ancient people, according as the poets have affirmed, were from the seed of ants restored again. Then was it to behold that dark valley, the spirits languishing in divers heaps.
I want to say diverse too every time too when I see that.
Oh yeah.
That being said,
is it diverse?
I know.
No, it is.
I know, but you
diverse.
hesitate. I know it is, but I want to say diverse instead of divers, and I hesitate to say it when I went over it too. I said divers as well, but it felt weird. That being said,
I
the
think,
part that they're talking about...
I think Longfellow's just using it was probably a spelling reform thing that didn't end up sticking, because this would have been, when Longfellow was writing, probably would have been shortly after Webster's attempt at spelling reform, so removing extraneous E's from words would have been something that I think...
It could be, but we can't assume that without, and that's what I'm saying. It hesitates because we want to read what's on the page, but we also want to read what sounds natural in our head, and it makes our brain go geek for a second. It's why it's happened 3 times already in this canto. Each one of us that have gone over it had paused on that word.
It's interesting. Sayers says heaped here, heaped there, which does give you a sense of diversity or sort of randomness of where the heaps are.
Yeah.
Oh,
so the Italian diverse does mean distributed, diverse, widespread. Yeah.
But the concept that they are talking about, I do not think a sadder sight to see was in Aegina, the whole people sick. There was no air so full of pestilence, animals down to little worm. some historians, this is outside of commentary now, mind you, some historians believe that this is talking about an area of the Earth that essentially had a radon leak from like an earthquake that led to fracturing of the ground shale that released it. And an entire city died from essentially radon poisoning, down to every last animal. Because they found evidence of this happening in a certain area of Tuscany dating back to like 8,000 years ago. It was like a tribe of people there at the time. But the people all died, and there's evidence of the bone of radon poisoning in the bones. And the historians believe that what Dante is describing is a legend of another such town. Jesus, motherfuckers did not have your Wheaties this morning. Well, it's nighttime. It's nighttime for Despy, so he's got an excuse. But the other two of you, where's your coffee?
Say things more interesting, and maybe I'll respond.
Fuck you too, buddy. I'm giving you historical ground annihilation of an entire city. What more do you want? That being said,
I mean, you got to do something to get past my ADHD. You know that.
I know. No, but that being said,
I was looking something up.
But if historians are right, this mimics something that Despy will know about, because this happens in Chinese mythology too. The only difference is they blame it on fucking ghosts. Well, spirits. The whole city up in Guangxi dying back in fucking 448.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Or 348? I don't know, long fucking time ago. Long enough that it became folklore.
Yep.
But yeah, the whole city died after an earthquake, and they believe, mind you, because this one hasn't been researched like the one that they found through archaeology, they believe it was something similar. Some kind of a toxic gas got released from the earthquake and killed the entire town. And I might be remembering or saying the wrong. It's the ZHAI, the one that has the multiple fucking vowels after the ZH. I can't remember how to pronounce that one.
Okay.
Sorry. Wait, where?
Northern China by the Gobi, but near the mountain edge. Folklore city died.
Oh,
yeah. I just can't remember that because it's been so long. But it's one of these things that there is any place that there is volatile seismic activity that can lead to this kind of release of toxic gas en masse. There is folklore around cities dying like this, down to the lowliest animal. And some historians believe that's what Dante is referring to here. All right, fine. Yeah, motherfuckers don't want a bunch of dead ancient people. Fine.
well, no, I was trying to find the city in question.
Yeah, I just can't remember the name. And I remember it had a bunch of fucking vowels after the ZH at the end. That being said, this is one of these things where the legends of 1300 are very important to these people. Like, you are talking about a time period where superstition is the norm on top of religious belief. Like, now we have people who are highly religious and they forgo superstition as a whole. But in this time period, they are one and the same. So I think if the historians are right, and Dante is bringing up a folklore of a city that was just wiped off the face of the earth by gods, demons, whatever the fuck they blamed it on in whatever story he's referencing, what he's trying to give here is a sense of, like, compassion because of it happening to all, even animals who had no blame to bear. And this is, again, what I would point to, what I have pointed to in almost every canto, but two, up to this point, Dante's humanism coming out in Dante the character, whereas Dante, the narrator, through Virgilius, is chastising him for that humanism.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why he chastises himself. Maybe the Catholic with the Catholic guilt here could help us out with that. But other than that, this psychologically, this does not make sense to me, but narratively, it makes sense perfectly to me.
Why would somebody chastise themselves?
In this way, if he is actually a humanist, like so many believe, why would he chastise himself for those humanist impulses through the character of Virgilius?
Well, I mean, it could be one of those things that, like, what is it? He knows personally that it's right, but he also knows religiously that it's viewed as wrong.
Yeah, like this would seem to be an expression of the conflict between his personal philosophy and what his faith tells him he should believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys ever have that when you were believers still? I mean, I don't know how many of you still are believers, but I mean, like, to me,
I mean, yeah,
I never had that. That was what
I had
instantly...
conflicts.
Go ahead. Sorry, delay.
I had conflicts all the time. I mean, this was I grew up in various forms of Protestantism, but like, especially when I was a teenager, like that, I had conflicts all the time between what religion said I should believe and like what my mind was like, no, this is what actually makes sense.
See, I got a little bit with the science, but not the morals. Go on, Gusby. Sorry,
I really didn't take the leap to leave until after I graduated from high school. There was a worry that there would be like some ostracization from that. So,
as there always is with those type of like high control communities.
Yeah, like I don't know, like now if my parents would have done that, but at the time that was the worry.
Oh, and that was what I was trying to get at. I wasn't saying that your parents were shitbags. I was just saying that fear, because you've seen it happen to so many others who did leave, that did get ostracized. Like it would make perfect sense to have that fear.
Right. I just, the other thing is that also I was young at the time, so my skills at reasoning probably wouldn't have been like.
See, I don't want to say it was my skills at reasoning that let me get out earlier. It was my parents did the dumb fuck thing of telling me to read the book. I had questions. Hey, why is this? Why is that? Read the book. Read the book. Well, I read the fucking book. And then I was like, but he says here and here. So like the moral never became a question for me because I was like, I always held to that belief of you will know the good by their fruit, therefore you'll know them by the behavior and their action. So I was like, I'll know what's right by feeling what's right. I mean, obviously that's a fucking very wrong way to think, but I was a kid, so like I never had that morality. I just thought people were telling me the words in the book wrong, and then I read the words in the book, and I'm like, no, they weren't telling me wrong. The book's just dumb. The book, like, not to make this a theology lesson, but it's like at 12 years old, I read the book a few times at that point, and I'm like, if this God is real and as described in this book as I am reading it, he's a monster. Fuck this dude. Like, I didn't care if he was real or not at that point. It was, I will go by the things he said were right originally because he doesn't live by the shit he told us to live by.
Yeah.
And that's really what it came down to. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, what is it like? It's a similar vein. I honestly cannot square how the concept of the Christian God can be all powerful, all good, and all knowing at the same time. There's literally no way for me to square peg round hole that.
Well, and we've been over that before. That's a modern lens, dogmatic, interpretation. Originally, the triomni wasn't there. It wasn't all good because of Isaiah 46, 47, I forget now. But where God literally says to one of his prophets, I am the source of all evil. Like, originally in ancient Christianity, they believed God was both the source of good and evil because he was the source of fucking everything. Like, it was only later that we changed that to all good.
Right. But with that, even with that modern interpretation, I still can't square peg round hole that. So,
and here's the thing, again, not to go too deep into a theology thing here, but it's like, if he's real, he's gonna hate when I die, because he's gonna have to hear from my ass for eternity. There's not a hole in hell deep enough where he's not gonna hear me yelling at him.
yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. But now that we've lost every Catholic that was in our audience,
you, Rich, and I are all still here.
I'm not a Catholic anymore, though.
No, were you confirmed?
Yeah, and I'm not off the rolls.
Yeah. So, hey.
They won't kick me off.
Of all the religions, you could possibly go to, which one has the most technicalities?
Mormons. Sorry, you left me open for that.
Right. I know. I did.
You're right. I know what you meant.
Like, literally, Catholic means from the whole. So you're always from somewhere. You can't change where you're from without a time machine.
Yes, but the presupposition that you're born Catholic is the problem with that from the whole.
No, you're not born Catholic.
I mean, if you're if you're gonna make the etymological argument here, then literally every single person is Catholic because they are from the whole of humanity.
Yes.
Yeah, but in this case, it's from the whole of the church. Like,
you're missing the fact that you need to have an indelible mark.
Right.
That's if you don't have the indelible mark, you are not Catholic. You technically,
yes.
And what do we mean by indelible mark here?
So during the confirmation process, when you're being confirmed, at the very end of the ceremony, a bishop walks up and slaps you across the cheek. It's not hard; it doesn't hurt, but that's a symbolization of you being confirmed. That symbolization of that slap there is what puts the indelible mark on your soul.
Yeah,
so if you do not go through the
first
ritual,
cheek hit before you turned for the other is the symbolism.
Right.
Where it comes from. Yeah.
Right. So if you do not go through that ritual, you are technically not Catholic.
Yep.
You may still be saved through baptism, but you're not considered Catholic.
Yep. You may even have only ever attended Catholic churches. You may have been an altar boy. You are not Catholic until that rite has been done.
Correct.
At what age does confirmation usually happen?
It's changed.
It
over
depends.
The years.
It changes over the years, but from what I was reading, depending on which diocese you belong to, it can be as young as 12 and as old as 18.
The youngest ever was 8.
Okay.
But it's not the only one. There are 3 indelible marks. And most Catholics have 2 of them. So you get one at baptism. Yep. You get one at confirmation, and you get one at holy orders if you become a priest.
But that indelible mark follows a different teaching. I forget the one that they do there. Is this the crown or the scourge? I forget. But it's basically like a symbolic version of either the scourge or the crown that is applied to them instead of the slap.
This is what confused me at my first conversion, because I thought I was going to get baptized again. And they were like, no, you already have the indelible mark, even though it came from a Baptist church.
Yeah.
But still,
well, because that tradition goes all the way back to John. Yeah,
it was done in the.
We're going too much into theology class on that one, but yeah, it's just one of those things that, it's kind of like Mormons with their temple garb. You don't know until you know type shit. It's the same thing with Catholics. Most cafeteria Catholics who were born into Catholicism, they've gone through this and don't fucking remember it because it was when they were 12 or 13 years old.
Yep. But this is at once you get confirmation, not baptism, but confirmation itself, that is the point in which you are considered to be Catholic.
And then you are considered a member of the clergy with the third indelible mark, and then there is a fourth indelible mark, but that is reserved for the papacy alone.
I'm just looking at the etymology of the term Catholic. It would probably be more accurately translated as like general. So Catholic Church would be more like the general church, right? It's kind of a broadening, which I would argue was no longer valid as of the schism. Although, interestingly, both churches still call themselves Catholic, so, you know.
Well, so it's interesting because there are times, like, I remember Pope Nicholas III recognizes Dante as a Christian, and it doesn't say it's because he saw his indelible mark, but that would be an interesting, reason for him to be able to recognize it.
Yeah.
Because obviously he would have the mark and Virgil would not, and somehow he's able to distinguish between Dante and Virgil, if I recall.
Well, that would fit with apocryphal texts in Third Enoch, but that's not in modern Catholic teachings. In fact, Third Enoch isn't even referenced in modern Catholic teaching, only First Enoch is.
I know that's my own headcanon, but now I imagine the damned are just like seeing a glowing mark, like on
I don't remember if it was glowing, but there was a mark when Enoch was bodily carried into heaven, that was visible. I don't remember if it was glowing, but that would track with apocryphal text.
Yeah. Well, there's also the mark of Cain, right? Which would be the opposite mark.
Okay.
Some sort of
the mark of Cain. Damn, a little bit on this one, because this actually dates back to early Christian demonology, is the way that this is interpreted. The mark of Cain, and this you have to go into like cryptozoology for this because real people don't study this crap outside of theology and fucking people who believe vampires are real. The mark of Cain is the mark of the vampire. You will no longer be able to see daylight. You will walk amongst men.
Puncture wound on the neck?
Huh?
Is it the puncture wound on the neck?
No. The mark is that you cannot be in daylight. That's the whole mark. The mark is not visible. The mark is
that
visible.
A literal mark?
Yes. But that is going through grimoires and apocryphal texts. Basically shit that the Catholics haven't taught since 400. And I can point this out because we even have Catholic vampire burials, where they put stones or iron nails in the mouth and cage the bodies inside the coffins. But that is a whole nother thing, and we will go too far off into the weeds if I get into that. Milo, for anybody in the audience who's interested, Milo of Mini Minuteman did a video on vampire burials where he goes all into that, and he did a way better job than any of us here would do anyways. That being said, okay, so
speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding.
You'd be very good at you'd be very good if we wrote you the right script. Whereas Milo just has this shit in his brain, and he's like the storyteller around a campfire.
I was just being funny.
Here's the thing. Serious. Here's the thing. I think you would be better with the right script.
All right.
Yeah, that too. But I think you actually would be better because you have the acting chops with the right script. Whereas off the cuff, I think he'd be better. That's the difference.
Well, we're getting off topic, so let's
Yes, but okay, but going back to where we were, basically where we had left off, there was Dante alluding to heaps of dead people laying in diverse heaps all over the fucking place, and the historians believe that he is referencing folklore of a city dying to some kind of a natural event in mass like this, where even the animals were killed by it. Um, it before we got off on the tangent with theology, the reason that he does this is to give a sense of like foreboding, that kind of, if you were to walk around a corner and see a mass of dead animals, like it doesn't even have to be dead humans, just it would make you feel uneasy. It does to almost any social animal. If they see a mass of dead animals of any species, it makes us uneasy naturally, because we're like, shit, what's wrong? Am I about to die? It's that lizard brain part of us that kicks in, and he is trying to elicit that lizard brain reaction in his reader by making them picture masses of dead bodies that with no explanation to why they're dead.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Hmm.
He asks if anyone there is Italian, and some are, and so they come up. But it made me wonder. They've been speaking to people from all points of history and other parts of the world or whatever. Like, do they have like the TARDIS's power of translation, where they can all understand each other? I assume that's the case.
Babelfish.
Virgil's the universal
Yeah.
translator.
Yeah.
No. They
Well,
have
I
the
can see
They have
that,
the
like, Virgil
Babelfish
being
from
a-
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I heard you,
That's
but
exactly what
I
that
was just going with Virgilius because of the intercessionary prayer making him the universal translator. But yeah, the Babelfish is funnier. That being said, at least to the way that I interpret that, based on like the plain reading of the text, because many of these things, there's that little interspersion from Virgil. Virgil is translating, and Virgil is a polyglot.
Yeah, that's true. Because there are points at which someone says something and Dante doesn't understand it because it's not in Italian.
But that, is that because it's not in the language of Italian, or that he culturally doesn't understand because it comes from a different culture than he's familiar with, etc. That's the part I don't know about. I've interpreted it as Virgilius is the translator because he is multilingual. Historically, that's what people assume of him because he wrote in multiple languages. That being said, that's an interpretation. It is not plainly written that way.
It's an infernal language. It's not because it's a foreign language. So I wonder if that's the thing.
Yeah, maybe, and that's my point. Is
That'd
it's
be
not
interesting.
plain. It's not plain text on the page. This is just my interpretation based on context clues. I could be very, very wrong. There's a couple of scholars who agree with me, a couple of scholars who disagree with me, and I don't know who's right.
Okay.
Like, just to be completely fair, it's just that's what it feels like to me. Because otherwise, why does he need Virgil as a guide? Why does Virgil talk to anyone rather than just open gates? Yeah, it seems like Virgil's more than just a companion and a guide, like literal, hey, stay on the path guide. It seems like he is also a spiritual and emotional guide, which would then make him like interpreting all of these like emotional events to Dante as the communicator of this surreal hell. Because as Despy pointed out a couple of weeks ago when we last met, the deeper we go, the more surreal it gets.
Remember Pape Satan? Pape Satan Alepe?
Mm-hmm. This is the surreal,
gibberish.
the surrealness of this. The deeper we go, the more Virgil talks. If you've noticed that as well. So that's why at least in my mind's eye, it's Virgil trying to explain what's going on. Because Dante's brain is to paraphrase a southern phrase, he's a cunt hair away from fucking being batshit crazy with everything that he's seeing.
Oh, this is interesting. Nimrod also speaks in gibberish, sort of like Papi Satan. But it would make sense that Nimrod would, because, of course, he was at Babel, the Tower of Babel.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll read this next section, and then I'll go get my.
So even we, the reader, cannot understand him. I like that.
This on the belly, that upon the back one of the other lay, and others crawling shifted themselves along the dismal road. We step by step went onward without speech, gazing upon and listening to the sick who had not strength enough to lift their bodies. I saw two sitting leaned against each other, as leans in heating platter against platter. Okay. From head to foot, bespotted o'er with scabs, and never I saw piled a currycomb by stable boy for whom his master waits, or him who keeps awake unwilling. As everyone was plying fast the bite of nails upon himself for the great rage of itching which no other scour had, and the nails sucker had, and nails downward had with them dragged the scab in fashion as a knife scales a bream, or any other fish that has them largest. Okay, so horrifying if you have a decent mental picture of what's actually happening here. These people are so encased in scabs from their festering wounds, from their own self-mutilating, clawing hands at the itching sensation, that they appeared to be scaled as a brim.
Yeesh.
For anybody who has been a fisherman at any point in your life and had to descale a brim, fuck. The amount of scabs. And then they're dragging them down, so this is the equivalent of putting a descaler on the side of a brim and watching scabs pop off like fucking popcorn.
Yeesh.
Like, I just hate having a good imagination sometimes. Because, like, this would be enervating. Just imagine the sheer, unadulterated pain of every nerve ending being ripped open, and then the itch of scabs forming, only to be ripped open again. Just imagine that agony, what that would do to your energy level. I wouldn't be able to lift my head either. I'd be leaning against somebody too. Fuck! Like, crawling, them bitches have too much fucking energy. And for those of you who have never ridden a horse, a currycomb is basically a fucking descaler. In fact, if you go to big fish markets in modern day, you'll see currycombs used to descale big fish. They will literally buy horse combs to descale fish because of they're basically
Jack?
Can you hear me?
Hey, okay.
You dropped out for a sec.
Yeah. You were telling us, saying what the combs are going to do, and then...
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened with that. But for whatever reason, I dropped out. But currycombs... address... look like this. Just imagine that dragging across your skin covered in scabs.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even, like, I've always wondered how painful that must be for horses when you're dragging it through their fur.
Because of the thickness of their hide and the number of nerve endings per square inch, it probably feels good to them, honestly.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
no, that like quite literally, horses will nuzzle up to you just to get scraped by those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You will have found a friend.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's one of those things where it feels good because you're getting rid of an itch even though it hurts, and therefore they still enjoy it, or it is because of the way their nerve endings and hide is formed that it actually feels more like a massage than to us where it would feel like torture. I just don't know. I mean, I don't think it's something anybody outside an equinologist is going to be able to fucking answer for us, to be honest with you. That
all I know is like when you brush horses, they want you to keep brushing them.
Oh yeah, your arm will fall off before they get tired of it.
Pretty much.
And that's one
Fair
horse. Usually you have to do it to 3 or 4 in a day.
Yeah.
Just so usually you have 3 or 4 horses fighting over getting to that comb unless you do it in their paddock. And with you in the middle of multiple 1,000-pound animals, yeah, you can imagine the interesting fucking situation you get yourself into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, back to the horror. This is being described in the 1300s. Like, we can visualize this because we have, like, horror movies and stuff like this. This is being visualized to them because the last time they saw wounds like this was during the last plague. The last plague before the 1300s to hit northern Italy was a plague of festering boils caused by fungus.
Well, I thought you said. I'm not gonna lie. I thought I heard you say play and not plague.
Oh, no,
They
plague.
saw it at the last play.
No, plague that hit northern Italy. So the last time they would have been covered by scabbing, festering wounds. And he is imagining taking a horse comb to that. So, like, to put this into perspective for a fucking stupid camera, for a modern audience, if you have ever seen footage from the Congo during an outbreak of one of their hemorrhagic fevers, you have seen what he is describing. Yes, hemorrhagic fever and the fungal plague in question are very different, but the outward physical appearance would have been very similar. Like, they function on different biomechanisms and they kill you in a different way, but the festering wounds would have looked very similar. Large, festering scabs about the size of a silver dollar. And he's describing them so thick that they overlap like fish scales.
Yeesh.
Yeah. Ugh. Like, I have a strong stomach. That one makes me a little queasy. And I've dissected people.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are pre-med, look forward to gross anatomy and hope you have a cast iron stomach. Why did I do it? I was bored and fucking took a class. That being said, when it comes down to it, this is probably, if we are going by 1300s Italian, the most surreal we have gotten. And we have flown on the back of giant serpent demons with fucking cat dog heads. What this is describing is masses of people literally crawling over each other like a carpet of dying, damned souls. Okay, now that we're all properly, demoralized and
Well,
depressed,
I
now
was
on to the
going to
next
get a
section.
snack, but I've decided against it.
Yeah, them artichoke chips just don't have the same feel right now, do they?
I have pistachios in front of me.
Oh God, the crunch.
Descaling and shelling are roughly the same thing.
Now, since we've all went around, whoever wants to pick up the next section can.
Oh, I haven't actually read.
Oh, I thought you did. My bad. Then that
Nope.
last section should have been yours, and you take this one. We've been talking
Right.
so much. I've heard your voice so much. I forgot you didn't read.
You'll have to remind me where we are.
We are
85.
on line 85, and it looks like you take it to 108 if we're going to a natural stopping point.
All right. O thou that with thy fingers dost dismail. Yeah. O thou that. O thou that with thy fingers dost dismail thee, began my leader unto one of them, and makest of them pincers now and then. Tell me if any lation is with those who are here, or who are herein, so may thy nails suffice thee to all eternity unto this work. Lations are we, whom thou so wasted seest. Both of us here, one weeping made reply, but who art thou that questionest about us? And said the guide, I am one am I who descends down with the living man from cliff to cliff, and I intend to show hell unto him. Then broken was their mutual support, and trembling each one turned himself to me, with others who had heard him by rebound. Wholly to me did the good master gather, saying, Say unto them whate'er thou wishest, and I began, since he would have it so. So may your memory not steal away in the first world from out the minds of men, but so may it survive neath many suns. Say to me who ye are, and of what people. Let not your foul and loathsome punishment make you afraid to show yourselves to me. That's mildly confusing.
It's mildly confusing, but it's also really fucking menacing. At least to me. Essentially, at least to the way this reads to me, is essentially, the horrors are worse than even that your lying eyes can express to you in close modern poetic terms. Like that's how it feels to me, like, as I listen to this, is that this is basically like you think you see it bad now, this is your eyes can only see so much, mortal type shit.
Yeah.
Unless somebody else has a different interpretation. That's how it comes off to me.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
Well, yeah, it sounded like basically Dante asking them, who are you? Don't let your punishment make you afraid to, make you afraid to speak to me. Which, that's the confusing part. I'm like, why would that be the case? Why would their punishment make them not want to speak to him?
Because, remember, Catholic guilt. Those who are in hell because they cannot leave hell by their own choices. Anyone who is in hell could, if they overcome their contrapasso, walk out as if they were Jesus.
Okay.
The deeper you are in hell, the more likely you are to believe you belong there.
At
least,
fair enough.
Going by my Catholic fucking youth and fucking Irish Catholic upbringing, that's, how I would interpret it, because the deeper you are in hell, the more likely you are that to have done something that even repentance would not have gained you salvation.
Fair enough.
Well, I don't know that that's true. At least not in Catholic
I
theology.
said more likely, not guaranteed. Just scale of probability, not literal.
Well, I just mean if you're repentant, like that's all that's required. It's like I think you can.
Except for the
In
mortal,
fact, we
the
even
mortal
have a
sins.
sin for that. If you don't believe in your own salvation from repentance, that is itself a fresh sin, which is called the sin against the Holy Spirit, because you don't believe that you can be forgiven.
But the thing is let's say you seek repentance for, remember, ancient Catholic teaching, for one of the 7 deadly, or for blasphemy, things that there were no repentance from in the original teachings. We changed it over the centuries.
Well, okay, so the idea is if the reason why blasphemy and also like not attending mass and things like that are considered the unforgivable ones is merely that your mechanism of forgiveness is the thing that you're abandoning, right? So it would be like akin to someone's trying to save you and they throw you a life preserver and you literally discard the life preserver. Well, obviously the life preserver can't save you if you don't grab
Well,
onto it,
yeah,
right?
but to continue that metaphor, if I then grab the life preserver 45 seconds later, I'm still saved. But in the ancient teachings of Catholicism, there were certain sins that there was no repentance from. At certain points in history,
I'm unaware of that. I'll just say that. I'm unaware of that.
it is ancient. We're not talking even
I
in the
know.
last 500 years. This is like 300 to about 700 before they started doing the changes into the doctrinal teachings. At least from my memory, it may have been a little bit earlier, but not too much. It was a couple hundred years where this was the norm, that there were certain sins that you could not be forgiven for ever. Not even the Pope himself could forgive you.
Yeah, I would want to see examples of that because I'm unaware of that.
Well, it was teachings. As far as I know, nobody was ever excommunicated for it. There's a
Yeah,
difference
I know. I
between
mean,
teachings and what was actually practiced,
like
which
in
is
the
why I'm
Gospels,
saying teachings, not
the
the practice.
Gospels do say whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit never has forgiveness, right? But I kind of explained that.
No,
But I don't.
like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you
Yeah,
because you, like I, have done like a lot of theological reading into this, but I'm going by what they taught to people who could not read the fucking language for many centuries. That was very different than what we now can understand from our modern interpretation, going through lexically understanding like the contextual interpretation of these things within period speech, so on and so forth.
yeah. I mean, there are always like subsets that like taught
Mm-hmm.
things that are not compatible with Gospels or whatever. Like, but I just don't remember that ever being like official church teaching. But
I'd have
I
to
mean, I
look it
know
up,
there
but
were
I,
certain
I
early
want to
church
say it
fathers
ended around 7:30. I want to say it ended around 7:30, or not 7:30. Around 12:30 was the final end with Aquinas, but it was dying off before Aquinas put the final nail in the coffin.
Well, I mean, Augustine says it, and he's much earlier than Aquinas, right? Like
Yes,
Augustine
but
says that there's
remember,
nothing like.
Augustinian teachings didn't cement until later as well. Before then, we bounced between doctors for centuries.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be individual pockets who differ from the main church,
I'm
but
talking
that's
Rome. I'm not talking because the thing is that's the best we could do because they're the ones who have the best records from this time
you're saying.
period.
You're saying Augustine didn't cement until much later in Rome?
In the overall Roman teachings, as this is the primary doctor of the church, yeah, that didn't come till later. There was still bouncing. Think about it.
But how
Ambrose
much
was
later?
like I think it was 700-800 or seven, between 7 and 800. I just don't remember exactly
Okay,
what
but that's
decade.
still well before Dante.
Yes, we're talking ancient teachings. He's talking to ancient people. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Remember, Dante's very well schooled, like you and I are, just for his time period of the theology and the history. That's all I'm getting at, is that this is how he, at least it seems to me, would be interpreting it. There are certain sins you cannot be forgiven for. And at certain depths, even if you are repentant, you may be in hell. Just you think about it. Judas was repentant. Judas is in the final circles.
Did Judas repent formally?
I don't know if he said the words "I repent," but he was regretful. He was remorseful.
He was filled with remorse and guilt, right?
Yeah.
But did he like?
Um,
Right, but
I don't know, because the books have been altered, and that is in an area of the books where we know that certain areas of it are forgeries. So we don't know the full story on that one, but we assume not, because of the absence of that evidence.
He believed he was at least hoping that returning the money and confessing his sin would be the thing that, where he gets forgiveness from, right? But what he doesn't do, or at least he's not depicted as doing, is seek forgiveness from God.
And like I said, because there is an absence of evidence for it, that is what is assumed. And because the area of the book that could clarify this to us come from known forgeries, we don't know is the real answer.
Well, I can accept we don't know as an answer, but what I can't accept is he repented and wasn't forgiven. That's
if we go by the original meaning of repentance, you did not have to ask Jesus or God directly for forgiveness.
What we mean,
I'm talking original Catholic teachings. Literally just saying the words out loud. It did not have to be to a priest. It did not have to be directed specifically to God. Speaking the words of remorse were technically the original meaning of the word repentance. So by the original meaning of the word, he was repentant. Later Catholic teaching says unless you ask God directly for that forgiveness, you are not repentant. So it depends on what church teaching we are talking about, whether or not he was repentant, based on the text that we have that is not a known forgery.
But I'm just right. But we're talking about what Dante means when he depicts. I don't think Dante means when he's doing that depiction. I don't think he means.
In the 1300s, we.
Don't get me wrong. There's some inconsistencies here, right? Because Christ says to forgive the Romans who are torturing him on the cross, right? And certainly they're not repenting. So how I understand that you can be forgiven.
And like I said, it depends on what area and century of church teachings we're talking about. And at least in the 1300s and the 1200s, when Dante primarily lived, at that time, blasphemy was still unforgivable.
Well, yeah, it's unforgivable unless you abandon the blasphemy.
Again, depends on century. That's what I mean. I don't know what Dante believed. We'll never know what Dante specifically believed about it. But
there is one clue. Are there any former blasphemers in purgatory or heaven?
I'd have to dig into that.
That would answer it.
It could be. It could be. I've never dug into that specifically, so I'd have to dig into it to answer you. Maybe is the best I can give you at this point, because there were a few kind of cunts in purgatory that I'm remembering. I just don't remember if they were guilty of blasphemy.
Let's see.
But we'll be digging into that before too long. I mean, we're almost out.
The short answer is yes, there are. There are at least 3.
Okay. Well,
But we'll talk about that when we get
yeah,
there.
yeah. I'm about to say we're going to dig into those before too long.
And there's 2 in heaven, in fact.
Blasphemers?
Yeah.
Okay, that one I will ask. Who are the 2 in heaven? 'Cause I don't remember.
Rahab, the harlot of Jericho, is exalted among the blessed because of her repentance, that weight of her sins.
But she wasn't
Then
blasphemous.
Stadius. And then Stadius.
I don't know. I don't know Stadius, but the other one I know wasn't, at least to my recollection, not blasphemous. I mean, by the teachings of the church about like being a prostitute, yes, but never actually uttered blasphemy.
Okay, so let's say they weren't. Let's
Well,
say
no,
they weren't.
I just don't know Stadius. Stadius may
Yeah.
have been. I just don't I'm just curious if maybe I'm misremembering, or there is a piece of the text that I don't remember at all that she did, but I don't remember her being a
I
blasphemous.
mean, we have the poems of Stadius, so I think it'd be pretty easy to go through there and find.
Yeah,
something
I just don't know, and that's why I don't want to say yes or no on.
But even if, but it wouldn't be necessary, right? Because we know that the people who are in purgatory are destined to go to heaven. So that means blasphemers must be.
No. See, that is a later Catholic teaching, and if we go by the strict words of the Bible, more people are destined to be
not of
damned
the Bible,
than saved.
of Dante.
I understand
just
that,
talking
but
about-
we have to do parts of both, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he believes that most in purgatory are destined for heaven, or if some of them will be annihilated because annihilation was still taught in the Catholic Church at this time. I don't know what he believed of everyone in purgatory, but if he went by the Bible at all, he knows that a vast majority are destined for hell, not heaven. I mean, it's literally in the scripture that more will be damned than saved.
But the direction, right? Okay, but the direction. Okay, I have to look this up. But the direction of purgatory is up, and purgatory is by definition a temporary place. So one day it will be empty, and people are climbing up. I don't know if there's anyone in purgatory who's backsliding, who's going in.
No. But if they don't make it out, this is why I say at the time period when they still teach annihilation, they may just cease to exist if they do not make it out by the time that the second coming comes.
We'll have to see if we run into that. I don't.
And this is why I wish I had. This is why I tried to get Eucharist for this, because he'd be somebody who could help us through this. But because they taught annihilation, I don't know if Dante believes all of them are destined to get out, some of them are going to backslide, or if some of them are going to be annihilated. I just don't know, and it is not clear in the text. It is not like 100% stated in the
for shits
text.
and grins, I asked ChatGPT. It says medieval Catholic doctrine held that purgatory was for the saved, not for the damned. It's a place of temporary punishment and purification, not eternal damnation. Dante follows this view exactly. So every single soul Dante meets in purgatory is guaranteed to enter heaven once their purgation is complete. Of course, that doesn't mean that ChatGPT is right, as we know.
Yeah, no, I mean, but my point is, I know they still taught annihilation at this time, and we don't have a clear text in this or De Monarchia if Dante believed in annihilation at all. Well, we just don't have that. If he did, I don't know if he truly believed all of them were going to make it out. And,
okay, I asked that too, and it says annihilation never appears in the comedy. Of course, that doesn't mean it isn't implied.
And that's what I'm saying. It's never stated for or against 100%. That's why I just don't know. Because there are things that, think about it, when I was a cat... Ma'am, you just came in. No, ma'am, you do not need to go bark at the chickens. It's crazy animal. That being said, where was I? We don't know what he believed, and what I was just about to say is, you are a current Catholic. I am a former Catholic. I think Despy is a former Catholic, maybe still a believer. There are things that we believe that are not necessarily in line with the teachings because of what we've learned from reading the book. There were things that we believed that were slightly off from what the church believed because we were taught it wrong by a bad priest, so on, so forth, etc. I don't know what he believed, and we can't know unless he says it, unfortunately, because he's fucking dead.
Well, yeah, but there's also a question of where does the presumption lie, and if he doesn't mention it, I don't know.
Well, if we were in a debate, yes, yeah, but we're talking about a real person, not a debate.
No, I'm just saying in terms. I mean, it's not even just debate. Like even in science, right? Like if you have a null hypothesis, you can't rule it out.
Well, and that's
You
why I
can
say the null
still-
hypothesis would say that he was taught about annihilation, and therefore it is at least a 50-50 shot that he believed in it to a point.
Well, I wouldn't say 50-50. I would say, but no, I agree. You can't rule out a null hypothesis, right? But typically, you're going to presume, if you can't, if you can't disprove the null hypothesis, you also can't. There can be a preponderance of evidence that makes you think, okay, we're going to make this presumption until we get a better answer. I mean, that happens all the time, right? Even in science.
Less in science, but yes, on occasion, depending on if you were on frontiers of science, etc. But yes, it does occasionally happen in science. All I was getting to is because we know he diverged from the church at several points, we can't assume the null hypothesis is that he will go with the church, since he diverges on and off, and there does not seem to be rhyme nor reason as to why he would disagree specifically with the church, outside of specific anecdotal context to his life. And then that's us interpreting it with modern lenses of what would we do in his shoes. And then again, that's just, at best, an approximation.
Right.
That's all I'm getting at. And that's why I don't, you know me, I don't like saying 100% certainty unless it's there. And I know they taught annihilation at this time because it was taught until the 1500s, when it was completely abolished by a papal decree that it was no longer allowed to be taught. They literally had to do a papal decree to stop it from being taught because it was still taught until then.
Oh,
Lost Rich.
what up? Hopefully,
He may have just temporarily disconnected. I'm sure he'll be back shortly.
Yeah, because it was mean. Still showing him yellow. Yeah, this message received. That's fucking weird. He sounded like he was about to start talking when it fucking cut out too, because he lit up green and disappeared. That being said, it's just one of those things that we should be careful about how much we put our own interpretations on people's that we can see had diverse beliefs, and sometimes it's explained and sometimes it's not, to assume that we know what will follow the metric next. Like, it just, because, I mean, shit, there was things I believed that were dead. The Catholic Church would have fucking burned me at the stake for in 800.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, from what I understand of the text, my understanding was more in line with what the Bible teaches than what the church taught. So, who knows? And because he was obviously a very smart man, I don't know how much he diverged based on that same kind of, but I've read the book, kind of, understanding of it. That being said, kind of worried about Rich now. He's not answering. Oh, he's offline. I hope everything's okay.
What time is it there?
9:45. Shouldn't have class. He's not yet. If he
Did a
does
squirrel
have
get
class.
into a transformer?
Well, no, I'm hoping it's not something to do with his mom.
Yeah. No, I'm
That's
just
all.
wondering, like with, yeah.
Well, because if
No,
he
it
was
was
starting,
making
yeah, no, I know.
just-
I'm just worried now because he doesn't normally just disappear like that. That being said, back to Dante. Um, we don't know truly what he believed, and all I will say is it's at least a possibility that he believes some of the souls in purgatory will be annihilated because it was something that was taught. Because at almost every stage in history, about every 70 to 80 years or so, I should say, the Catholic Church has gone through a minor apocalyptic phase of the end is coming, and the end times are going to be near, and blah 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 blah, where we get a rush of people who do not believe the next generation is going to grow to adulthood, or sometimes that even the next year's crops are going to be needed because of blah 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 blah, and all kinds of horrible shit throughout history. So again, it's just one of those things that we got to take into account when reading historical texts like this, especially when you start talking about war-torn fucking Italy, when basically the heart of the church was being fought over for, what was it, 300 years of constant infighting between this noble family and that noble family, trying to angle for this third son to become a cardinal and potentially pope, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say how rich again, but he's not. Not actually concerned about him. Anyway. That being said, yes. The speech though, it comes off as that your mere mortal mind, is not even showing you the truth of what you're seeing. The whole foreboding speech of you aren't even seeing the worst of it. This is just what you can comprehend. I want to wait for Rich, but I also don't want dead air for that long.
Yeah. Well, there's not much we can do. Let's just keep going forward.
Yeah, I know. All right, so
I do have to take kids to Aikido tomorrow morning, so
I understand. We're not too far from the end. I see 117, and I think it goes to like 140. Or 140, 30 or something like that. So may your memory not steal away in the first. Oh, no, let you flow back up. I of Arezzo was, one made reply, and Albert of Siena had me burned. But what I died for does not bring me here. 'Tis true I said to him, speaking in jest, that I could rise by flight into the air. But he who had conceit, but little wit, would have me show him the art. Oh, welcome back, Rick. Show him the art, and only because no daedalus I made me be burned by one who held him him as his son. But on to the last bullshit of the 10, for alchemy, which in the world I practice, Minos, who cannot err, has me condemned. Okay, so this points to, at least in this one particular facet, despite all of the other reasons why people are in this bullshit, this person is specifically in this bullshit for the sin of performing and practicing alchemy. And the reason that this would have been considered such an egregious sin in this time period is alchemy was viewed as a form of idolatry, because it was viewed as pointing to other gods and spirits to help you transmute and transmogrify whatever the fuck you were doing.
Right.
Isn't it also associated with fraud? Because, like, if you can turn lead into gold, then you're basically printing money, right?
I don't know if at this time period it was, but I know by the Enlightenment period that concept had been cemented. It wouldn't surprise me if that was already common now in Dante's time.
Because sometimes people are surprised that forging money, like, what do you call it when you make fake money?
Counterfeiting.
Counterfeiting, yeah. That counterfeiting was so close to the bottom, and it's because it's a form of fraud. Like, anything that causes you not to trust the system is one of the worst sins for Dante.
No, and like I said, you are absolutely right. I'm just saying, I don't know if alchemy was, but it would not surprise me if it was viewed as a form of charlatanry and fraud, even though, but this is a bit of church history that we now know, but they wouldn't have known in the 12 to 1300s. For over 5 centuries, the church basically tried to practice alchemy on its own in little secret cults and stuff around the Vatican. Like, I don't know if it was viewed as fraud, but it wouldn't surprise me. It would make sense, you know, that with what we know historically.
And just because of the emphasis that
The emphasis
a great
that,
point to cut it. There's a great is the emphasis that I cut out. That's why.
Yes, but
counterfeiting.
oh, okay, he's back. Counterfeiting. You cut out there for a second, Rich. You went through that bad section of road.
Yeah, emphasizing counterfeiting. I'll probably go.
Ah, okay. Okay, that's what you were saying. Okay, so, I mean, I could say that, but at least from what I'm seeing here in my notes, Albert, the natural son of the Bishop of Siena, he practiced, basically the sin wasn't that it was a fraud, it was that a bishop's son believed that alchemy was real, so he was leading someone from the church, which fits with the other part of what you were saying.
Right.
Yeah, because the natural son of the Bishop of Siena fell for the sin of alchemy as well. Blah 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 blah. Like there's a bunch that goes into it, but apparently he led the priest kid astray. You don't fuck with the PKs. Anybody who went to a Protestant church knows that. Apparently it was true in fucking 1290 something as well. Let's see, what else do we need? More of these notes for this. Nope, just me being long-winded. Okay. Okay, so, that being said, the concept of flight. Now, this is something that Ancom and I are going to nerd out a little bit about. This was the holy grail of scientific achievement at this point in time. Like, the idea of achieving powered or glided flight through artificial means. We literally had people throwing themselves off the sides of mountains and dying trying to fucking prove this shit. Like, this wouldn't have just been a fraud, if it was viewed as such. This would have been, like, Evel Knievel level brag for jumping a fucking trash can on your BMX. Like, I don't know how to describe it because, I mean, as we all know, we didn't truly achieve powered flight until many centuries later, and glided flight for at least 150 years after this. Well, let me rephrase that. That we know of. If anybody else succeeded, we don't have records of it. So it's like, for him to have made the claim that he could take flight into the air, that is, to paraphrase a movie, gold move, Cotton. Gold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out. Apparently it didn't. Because, I mean, like, I'm sitting there thinking about it. What would this be like today, Ancom? Claiming cold fusion?
Warp
I
technology.
mean, it could be a number of things, but basically claiming to like honestly claiming to revive the dead probably would work just as well.
Oh yeah, cryogenics. There we go.
Yeah.
I got a good one. Claiming artificial intelligence.
Eh,
Well, here's the thing.
artificial general intelligence.
Well, no, here's the thing. As far as we know, there is no AGI. Who knows what fucking dipshit fucking government has behind closed doors their version of DARPA.
Fair enough.
We may have a Daryl or a Joshua out there yet, but as far as we know, AGI has not been achieved.
Yeah, but like, basically what happened here is he said he could fly. The guy said, "Show me." He couldn't show him, and so he burned him at the fucking stake. Like,
Yeah. I mean, this goes a little bit beyond tar and feathering, which would be the normal punishment for such a boisterous claim. So I will retreat to my original assertion. He fucked with the PK. Don't fuck with the PKs.
I can turn invisible, but only when no one is looking.
Well, yeah, that was more
good old Mystery Men reference there.
Yeah, that was a good one. But for me, it's I was trying to make it to something because we know that powered flight was eventually achieved. I was trying to make it to something that we could potentially achieve. With some of the superconductors and things that we've discovered, we could potentially discover cold fusion. I don't think we're gonna, but we could.
Seems highly doubtful.
It is at least mathematically possible. I don't think we're there yet. I just don't. I think we're probably going down a bunch of blind alleys on it, to be honest with you. There is probably a way to do it. We just haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
Just because the math says it's possible. And you know that it's not going to say it's possible unless there's at least a possible chance of it when you get into that kind of math. Fucking the math that takes up 6 5-foot tall whiteboards. That being said, back to this thing. It's also a common misconception that the church didn't burn people. Like, this is something that the church has shied away from in recent decades, and Protestants outright deny happened at all. That both the Catholic and Protestant churches burn people for shit. Yeah, we did it a lot. Like, we have church records that explain that there was one year where there was over 500 burnings in just this country of what we now know as Italy. This is back when it was still Lombardy.
I thought that was common knowledge. Like,
it's common. It used to be common knowledge, but the propaganda is being taught that it's all myth and it never happened. The church didn't do it, and it's not coming from Vatican. It's coming from fucking weird priests and shit like assholes over here in the States and a few in South America.
strange.
Small dog. I love you to pieces, but you're being annoying. Okay, so the other thing is, at this particular point in time, when Siena, they're talking about the Bishop of Siena and Albert of Siena. Siena, like Florence, is a hub of scientific inquiry. This is one of the places that had some of the highest concentrations of Moorish scholars at the time. And as you may remember from us talking in previous cantos, Rich and I have talked about the best scholars to have at this time were the Greeks and the Muslims. They were second to none. And you couldn't pick between them which one was better because both were fucking absolutely stellar compared to the rest of Europe. So, like, this claim would have been even more. He didn't just make the claim that he can bring somebody back from the dead through cryogenics. He did that shit in Silicon Valley, where everybody knew that he was full of shit. Okay. That being said, since we are getting closer to time constraints for Despy, if you would like to pick up, since I know Rich won't be able to now, and Tom will be next.
All right. And where am I going to? Finish it out?
Yeah, go ahead and finish it out.
And to the poet, said I? Okay. And to the poet said I, now, was ever so vain a people as the Sienese?
That's how I would have said it too.
Yeah. Not for certainty, the French by far. Not for a certainty, the French by far. Whereat the other leper, who had heard me, replied unto my cheek, or not, replied unto my speech, taking out strika, who knew the art of moderate expenses, and Nicolo, who the luxurious use of cloves discovered earliest of all within that garden where such seed takes root. And taking out the band among whom squandered Cassia de Asien, his vineyards and vast woods, and where his wit, the Abagliato proffered. But that thou know who thus doth second thee against the Sienese, make sharp thine eye toward me, so that my face well answer thee, and thou shalt see I am Capocchio's shade, whose metals falsified by alchemy, thou must remember, if I well descry thee, how I a skillful ape of nature was.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Damn.
So, Caccia de Ascian, sorry.
Longfellow, you a bitch.
Well, this is also a bit of fucking Dante's fault, but I will point this out.
Longfellow, you a bitch.
I'll point this out. This is something that I have to deal with on the fucking creationist side of the internet a bit. Yes, in the 1200s, before Linnaeus, we had people who believed humans were but apes. Before evolution, before fucking Darwin was ever even dreamed to exist as a possible name, because the language didn't exist to create it, there were people who believed that humans were a form of ape. Just interesting to me.
Yeah.
Well, because I have to point it out that it wasn't until the fundies that this shit really started to be fought against heavily. Like, even Carolus Linnaeus, a creationist, the guy who came up with our version of taxonomic nomenclature, he was a believer. He believed that God created us. And his challenge, once he got done doing all these classifications, his challenge after he got done with all this was, somebody, I can't tell humans from apes apart. Please, somebody figure out how to do it, because I don't like it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I can't figure out where the line is. Somebody help. I mean, because he didn't want it to be true, but But he didn't want it to be true. But he, being an honest scientist, could not fucking admit that there was no line between us. He was like, there has to be one. Somebody, please help me find it. Have you decided it's your time to be on camera? That you have to be heard on the microphone? Have you decided? Have you decided? Have you? Have you? Have you decided that it is time for Dante to have a puppers named Barbie? Huh? Ugh. Okay, yeah, you can chew on my hand. Happy now? Okay. Okay, so as we were going through this, and welcome back, Rich. Taking out Strika is or Stricha. I don't know which would be more accurate because I don't know if that's northern or southern pronunciation. But Nicolo was right, and Katya Askia. Everything else, you did okay. I mean, I can't blame Longfellow for the Italian words, my friend, and neither can you.
Yeah, well, there were some phrases in there that were like, I'm just saying.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. But remember what we were talking about last canto? When he has an ancient person speak, he changes the modality of speech in Italian as well.
Yeah, he doesn't need to use caveman.
Well, less caveman, more Sussex prick, but you know.
I'm just saying.
Wait, was Longfellow fucking Sussex? I'm pretty sure. No. Okay. He just lived there for a long time. He was born in fucking Maine. Okay. I could have swore he was from Sussex because he fucking lived there for so fucking long. Okay. That being said, Rich, do you have any input? I mean, you haven't been able to read through the second part, but you've been listening for while you were here. Then, apparently,
Well,
I would take that as a no.
yeah. And I think on that note, because none of us have really much to add on this one beyond that, when we get into the next one, we will be getting to the final circle of hell, and we will be entering the late Cocytus. We will be finally into the final 4 cantos, and getting to where we're going to be sliding down the crack of Satan's ass to get the fuck out of here.
As you do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just gonna say it. Fucking Dante had a really weird interpretation of where to put a ladder. Just saying. I mean, he couldn't have put it at the horns, off the top of the head, off the tail. Why down the ass crack? Okay, that being said, jokes aside, the way that this canto finished out, we close out with yet again this kind of like archaic wording, this kind of grandiose line of speech to describe what we had assumed was a form of fraud, and is later finished with falsified by alchemy. But the falsification in this situation, if they believed it real, would not truly be false in the traditional sense. And I always find that weird that we thought this, Because the real sin, especially when you talk to the priests, it was the blasphemy of praying to demons and gods to infuse your science with their magic, because God didn't give you magic in that way. To where the sorcerers and all that fucking jazz. So it's just one of these things that, to me, this reads more as social commentary. And not necessarily negative social commentary, but social commentary rather than theological commentary. Because transmuting one thing into another is something that is done through miracle. I mean, it is something that is done through, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, divine magic. Because that's all a miracle is a fucking form of magic that God approves of. And that comes from God, even though if you go by the biblical definition, everything comes from God. You know, it seems more of a cultural issue, because at this time, alchemists, as all of us in modern day with modern physics knowledge know, could not actually change lead to gold. At best, they were able to color it with some kind of artificial means to trick somebody, and that falsification is a social construct rather than a theological construct. Because theologically, they would have believed the magic was real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before anybody in the fucking comment section gets pissy about what we're saying, go look at ancient church teachings. This ain't me fucking making shit up. Like, church was fucking weird back in the day. I can't fucking help that.
It is true. The church was weird.
I mean, it's just, it is what it is. There are certain times in the church history where they believed some fucking nutty shit. Absolutely batshit nutty shit. Like I said, there was a 500-year period with approval from multiple popes where these little cults of fucking priests were trying to make more gold because they wanted more power in the world. You know, like... So they believed it was possible, otherwise they would not have invested so much time and money into that shit.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, obviously we know it's fucking bullshit. The only way you could transmute lead into gold would require a fucking super collider. And even then, it's going to be a random chance that you pull it off. And not just fucking turn it into something else with that collision. That being said, so it's an interesting way to view it, because to Dante, he is viewing this through a religious lens, at least by the plain words on the page. And if he's viewing it through a religious sense, why would he consider it fraud? But that's the plain words on the page. With the way that he does social commentary and everything, it really reads to me more like he maybe didn't, and this was his way, because of like the sheer ridiculousness of it, to show that no, the fraud is fraud. It has nothing to do with magic. That kind of subtle dig at the modern concept. Yes, God damn it. We're getting texts from the like all the paperwork and shit I had to do yesterday. Every time I see that fucking dollar amount crossed, it just makes my stomach fucking quiver. Fucking ACs are expensive. But on that note,
Yeah.
we will see you next week.
Indeed.
But woke up late and missed the rapture bus, trying to Google exit hell, but it's just us. Tour guides, dead dress code, flames and dust. Welcome to the pit. No refunds, no trust. I'm stuck in limbo's all sin, but barred from grace. All is singing hymns, no heaven face. Dante's ghost just wait in empty space. Here in lust they whirl on endless breeze. Paolo and Francesca's kiss accursed tease, all yearn for love and drop to their knees. Blood will run sludge, kiss up the fright, Cerberus snarls at every bite. They gorge, they choke, stuck day and night. Regal anchors with scales of gold, Plutus god involved so cold, hands cramped from grasping, never sold. On the swamp of wrath, all rage is loud. Filippo Argenti fights in the cloud. Fury splashes can't drown them out. Heretics burn in tombs of flame, far